designed our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I am your humble, sick voice, Rowan.
And I'm Terry's Chocolate Orange, of course, Mike.
And I'm Colton.
And it's Jill.
And we are back on this very, very special occasion. It is our 6-year anniversary. As I say, as we came up to it, like, where has time gone? Time flies when you're having fun, or time flies when you're
suffering,
I guess. Maybe no one as much as Mike. Mike has definitely been in for the whole 6-year haul, and he looks tired, and he knows this is one of those
sleep.
He knows this is one of those jobs he's not allowed to leave, so he's stuck here forever until he dies. He'll die with a microphone in his hand.
Or up his ass.
How dare you? I'm gonna be like Alice in Nightmare on Elm Street 4, you know, when she's a waitress forever. Except it's me with a microphone up my ass.
He'll get the other microphone, so you can have one in his mouth too. So we've already devolved into just filthiness.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, half of the new listeners that would be clicking on this be like, oh, 6 years, let's check out what they have to say. It's like 30 seconds in, we're talking about Mike shoving microphones up his ass.
Yeah.
It's just like, no one's tuning into this unless they've been listening for at least 2 years.
Yeah, all I can think about is like way back in the day when we got like that one real negative comment that was like, I can't listen because this Mike guy
Hillbillies? Oh, okay.
No, it was like this Mike guy, all he does is curse and say sexual things. And yeah, that's what he's like, maybe they changed. Maybe they grew up.
And then I came along and made it worse.
Yeah.
Made it worse. Yeah.
But, well, you can already tell from the intro, we got Colton back. He's back from building video games. What was it called? I don't know, Flogging Molly. I don't know.
Low poly. It was a game jam game. Yeah,
I watched the trailer.
Oh yeah, it was cute, eh?
Yeah, it looks like an N64 game or something.
Yeah, it's what we were going for. Just been picking away at that for the past little over 2 weeks. My brother went to school for video game design, so he always does the annual global game jam, and for the past couple of years, I was helping him out, and this was kind of the first one that actually became some sort of a video game, like that you could actually play it or occupy your time for 30 minutes or so. So yeah, no, we were just picking away at that for the past couple of weeks, and a lot more work goes into those sorts of things than some people might expect. It's a pretty involved process, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. I can't do anything that skilled, so...
Was it just the two of you?
My brother was the lead coder. I kind of did the character design and texturing and some UI stuff. And there was one guy who did the score, and then one guy during the first week of the game jam that did probably the lion's share of the level modeling. No joke, he churned out probably 150 3D assets in a week. All he did was 3D model, essentially. And he went to school with my brother as well, so he's just a lot quicker at those sorts of things than I am, who, I've only really dipped my toe into that sort of stuff within the last year.
That's sweet.
Cool.
Well, we got a hefty episode ahead of us. I'm sure interspersed, we're going to talk about, how we all want to escape from the 6 years and how much fun we're really having. I'm just being sarcastic. I'm already apologizing ahead of time. I'm dedication. I've got a crazy fever, so my voice is screwed, and I'm sure I'll cough and all that kind of stuff.
And he's hallucinating.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm shocked that you didn't do another take of that intro where it was just hello, horror house, like stumbling through it as if you haven't done it like 200 times.
6 years. I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it real this episode. That's how it's going down. But let's start with what we've been consuming, what we've been watching, what we've been listening to, what we've been reading, what have we been up to in general. Colton, you've been gone a little while. You talked about game jam. I want to say comic jam, but it's game jam.
Yeah, game jam. I mean, I've been gone a little while, but that's pretty much been occupying basically all my time. So I've only watched a couple of things even within the last month, despite missing the Altered States episode. So we checked out Companion and Heart Eyes. Both of those, they'll be now slaying episodes out by the time this is, hits the free feeds. But in addition to that, I think I really only checked out 2 other movies. The first of which is The Count of Monte Cristo, which is not the early 2000s one starring Jim Caviezel. Not that one. This is one that I watched because I thought it was going to be in the running for a Best International Film nomination for the Oscars. It's a 3-hour-long French movie, obviously based on the classic Alexandre Dumas novel, that honestly I had only some familiarity with, other than, some like kind of like the aspects of the revenge tale, but I didn't know like the overarching story. So when I was watching it, this was just like a really nostalgic watch for me, because it felt like a lot of the movies that you'd see in like the early 2000s that are kind of like cheesy, but there's still like a big budget to them, and they're just really I would say almost endearing in sorts of ways. Like, it's similar to something like Gladiator or Troy or A Knight's Tale or The Last Samurai, all of which are not great movies, but there's aspects of them that, I enjoyed watching as a kid growing up. But yeah, this movie, it's like grandiose, it's sweeping, it's romantic. It's kind of just like this epic adventure that I couldn't believe was coming out in like 2024. And also like by, the French film industry, like it's probably like a $100 million movie, and I have no idea how they'll ever make any of that money back or who will ever see it, because it's just for us over here. It's like on Crave now, just free to stream.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. So anyways, I enjoyed it. It didn't wind up actually getting nominated for an Oscar afterwards, but it's one of the best movies I saw last year, if you're like kind of in the bag for those sorts of like early 2000s movies. Like, once again, it is cheesy at times. It is like big-hearted, wears its heart on its sleeve, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great watch.
Question.
Yeah.
How does it compare to Van Helsing?
From what I remember about Van Helsing was more of like an edgy, sort of and cheesy, but like that's like cheaply made, I guess. Like when you watch something like Troy, it's not cheaply made. It's just like, for whatever reason, the people that are starring it, and like, Orlando Bloom's like this big heartthrob and, important person in the movie. There's like an inherent cheesiness to it that is in this that I don't remember Van Helsing really having, that other than just like it being kind of edgy. And, that was a little bit later in the 2000s, I think. When
it was like 2006.
If it was like Van Helsing, it would have been nominated for Best Picture. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of which, the other movie I checked out, Nickel Boys, actually was nominated for Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay. They made a movie out of
Nickel Boys?
Oh yeah, is it based on a book or something?
Yeah, Colson Whitehead.
Oh shit!
Well, that's so cool.
Then yes, yeah, it's a movie that's out, and obviously it's nominated for Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and it's not playing at a lot of places currently, but it is available online if you know where to look. And it follows 2 boys in a reform school in Florida, where of course all sorts of terrible things happen to them. The story itself I thought to be like obviously quite emotional, but what sets it apart from other movies like that have this like similar subject matter is that it has a very unique style of cinematography, where it's all filmed as if it's from like the first person point of view. So I've only ever seen one other movie even do this, which I think is a movie called Hardcore Henry, which is like an action sci-fi over the top sort of thing. This is obviously like a more artsy indie movie shot from that point of view, and you're following like 2 boys as they go through this reform school. I would say for me, like that sort of style worked in certain points in the movie, but then was also really disorienting and kind of like almost like motion sicky at other points of the movie, where I was just like it was the sort of thing where I almost had to like turn it off or pause it, because when they get to the boarding school and like let's say they're getting the lay of the land, going through and seeing all the different rooms and the cafeteria and the grounds, it's just like the camera is always moving and jerking around like as if you're walking through the school. So obviously it's very immersive, but it's also, for myself, it was just as someone who gets motion sick easy, I was just like a little bit queasy watching it. And outside the cinematography, it uses like a lot of archival footage. a lot of like surreal imagery, really trying to evoke kind of like the feeling of certain parts that were happening, like certain things that were happening in the reform school, and also kind of set you in this late 60s time period, also which some of it worked better than others. For me, that like first person point of view just wound up making the movie a little bit confusing at times, as you might expect. Like, let's say if you're cutting from one character's point of view to the other in the middle of a scene, or how do you know sometimes which character you're with for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes before like somebody actually calls them by their name, which is, you know, also part of like the theme of the movie about like all these boys having a shared experience, and like you can almost like swap out their names and the characters because they've all kind of endured this like similar suffering. So for me, it was definitely like emotionally impactful. It was just kind of a little bit confusing at times. And, you know, when you see this weird surreal imagery set against like obviously a very like down to earth, like gritty portrayal of like what happened at this school, it was a little bit, I don't know, off-putting is too strong of a word, but it stood out kind of like in a weird way for me. And then the ending for me didn't really nail it. But overall, I was a little bit more negative talking about it, but I did really enjoy it overall. It was just the sort of thing where I thought it was a better, like, maybe like an artistic experiment, or more of like something worth watching just to see this sort of style put to screen, more than kind of like how they nailed the story, I guess. But yeah, maybe if you watched or read the book, maybe you'd enjoy it a little bit more. I have no idea. I didn't even know it was based on a book. So I'm interested to see what this director does next, because I think this was like a first-time director, and it's obviously he has a very distinct and singular vision. But yeah, it's great. Check it out when you can. Nickel Boys. Outside of that, that's all I've been seeing. Like I said, I've just been completely consumed by this game jam thing, like, you know, working on that for 12 hours a day sort of thing. So yeah, I'm pretty tired at this point. But yeah, Jill, what have you been checking out? What have you been consuming?
So I've been reading The Handmaid's Tale for the first time.
Appropriate.
It's appropriate. It's a little bit miserable.
Whatever spurred this on?
Geez. I don't know. Living in the wake of fascism in Trump America, probably. So yeah, I bought it back when I moved here in 2019, and it's just been sitting on my shelf, and I don't know why I haven't read it, because Margaret Atwood is one of my favorite writers. Like, her short stories are incredible, and I just love the genres that she writes in, like a lot of, you know, just fiction and science fiction, as well as her poetry. Always resonates very deeply with me. Having largely feminist overtones. And I watched the Hulu show when it first came out and kept up with it mostly until like the last season. I kind of fell off of it. But yeah, I was just kind of inspired to read it, because there's a lot of discourse going around, of course, about like all the similarities in you know, what's going on today. And in the foreword that I read on this book, Margaret Atwood wrote this in 2017. When she was writing Handmaid's Tale, she was living in Germany. And this was like 1984, when the Berlin Wall was still a thing. So it was really interesting to see her insight into how things were then, and writing a dystopian kind of setting like this, and how it still very much like echoes through time and resonates with today.
How did you feel about like the show compared to the book? I just asked because me and Exilia had like started watching the show, and then we started reading the book together. And I know me and Exilia both fell off of the book, because I was like, I actually like what they did with the show better than what they did in the book. And even Exilia, like I've only read Oryx and Crake. That's the only other Margaret Atwood thing I've read.
Yeah, I read Oryx and Crake and Year of the Flood, I believe. I haven't actually read The Handmaid's Tale.
I really like Oryx and Crake, but Exilia's read a bunch of Margaret Atwood, and like I remember her telling me that The Handmaid's Tale was actually like one of her like least favorite Margaret Atwood.
Yeah. I've read, well, up until like 8 or 9 years ago, I read like literally every book she ever wrote, because she was my favorite author. And Handmaid's Tale is obviously an excellent book, but it's definitely, you know, her like, you know, the one that's like just really popular and shit, and like it's not necessarily her best.
Yeah. Did you say you read it, Colton, or no?
I haven't read The Handmaid's Tale. No, I read Oryx and Crake and Year of the Flood.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Rowan was asking you if you prefer the show or the book.
Right. Sorry. Okay, what's funny is that I'm about 70% done with the book right now. And actually last night I put on the show. I started over from season 1 while I was reading. And a lot of the stuff that's happening in the first couple of episodes is like stuff that's still happening in the novel as I'm reading it. So, you know, they really stuffed a lot in that show. But I'm also noticing, because I'm reading it at the same time and things are happening kind of at the same time I'm reading it, is they took a lot of the prose from the book and the characters are like actually saying it, or, you know, Elizabeth Moss is like narrating it, which is something I really like. I always love it when they do that with, you know, books. It was one of the reasons I liked Nosferatu for so much as well. But yeah, I'm really liking both of them, but I'm seeing definitely the difference in what's not actually in the book yet and things that they added afterwards. I know she just put out a new book in like the same kind of universe. I'm not sure if that's a prequel or a sequel.
It's like a sequel.
Okay.
The Testaments, right?
Yes. But so far, it's amazing. I just love Margaret Atwood anyway, and it's really kind of miserable reading it and seeing the same things kind of happen down here. One of the big things was like in the show when the women all get fired from their jobs and they can't access their money, and just like hearing like rumblings in the news about Elon Musk, you know, buying information and, you know, having access to like your money and stuff like that is pretty scary. And it's really easy to kind of get down on that stuff right now because there's just like so much stuff coming out every single day. But one of my favorite things in the foreword from Margaret Atwood was something about like to the sentiment of, you know, if you're going through this right now, hopefully someone somewhere is like writing this down, kind of like in The Handmaid's Tale where June is like writing her story. So I think it's really important to just like be aware of what's happening around you, and just like, you know, maybe it is a good idea to write things down, because we're in the wake of like media being censored and books being banned, and I think the written word is really powerful. So yeah, that's what I've been reading.
When all the servers go offline, you'll still have your journal.
Exactly.
And she knew that you'd be documenting this on the It's Lays podcast. So
Exactly.
This is where you can store your information.
We're actually changing the title to the Fascism Watchdog podcast.
Yep.
Exclusively covering American politics from
Dude,
We're pivoting. Sorry, everyone.
It's so rough here. But anyways, I did see the cameo of Margaret Atwood in the show. She's like in the scene where they're all like pointing at I think it's of Warren and saying like, "You're a slut, this is all your fault." Yeah, Margaret Atwood is like one of the aunts. I saw her face for a second and I was like, wait a minute. And then I looked it up and it is her.
Can I also suggest quickly, because nobody ever watches this, but in like 1990 they did make a movie out of it. And it starred R.I.P. Natasha Richardson, and a lot of people really don't like it. I actually saw it on TV when I was a kid, and it's what made me read the book, which then got me into Margaret Atwood for like most of my life. It's pretty good. I think that if you like the book and the series, that you should watch it. It's just, they obviously, like, it's like a 90-minute movie, so they really had to like kind of have it clip along and cut a lot of stuff out. But it's definitely, if you're digging it, you should definitely track that down.
Will do. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good.
We talked about how we did a Now Slaying episode on Companion. So go check that out if you're interested. I also watched the 2009 remake of My Bloody Valentine, and that was something special.
Normal or 3D?
I had to watch it in normal because that's what was available to me. But it would have been really cool to see it in 3D.
I've got the Blu-ray copy, like with the My Bloody Valentine 3D glasses.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Is it awesome?
Have
you watched it?
I mean, okay. I'm old now and don't have the best vision, and like old school 3D glasses on movies are pretty, like, I was like starting to get a headache after like 20 minutes. Okay. I'm like, oh, like, you know, because you're literally just looking at a movie in like red and blue, like combined.
Yeah.
Like it's the old school style. So, yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun for like a gimmick. if you're just, you know, at home and you're like, why not?
I think seeing that movie like actually in 3D when it came out in the theaters would have been like the prime way to see it, because the story kind of sucks and you know, they shouldn't have remade it, but at the same time they made it super gory and like cheesy, but in a way that I liked it. Super gory way of doing My Bloody Valentine, and the original I have a lot of love for. So it's a good time if you're into that. Be way cooler if you could actually see it in 3D, because a lot of the effects are like clearly made for 3D.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Lots of stuff flying at the screen, right?
Yes. Yeah. And the last thing that I watched, I finally watched The Substance.
Yes.
Yay.
Jesus.
I know. And I'm glad that I took the time to sit down and just like savor it. That's kind of why I hadn't watched it yet, is because I knew I needed to just have nothing distracting me. I wanted to sit down and have me a good ass time. And that's what I did. I didn't rent it. I watched it on Mubi, and I ordered pizza, which in hindsight, maybe don't eat while you watch The Substance.
Yeah.
I got
that
the ick.
shrimp scene very early in the movie.
That's what, like, when my pizza arrived too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I'm so repulsed by seafood. Christ. But yeah, I sat down. I think I had some edible, and it was a good ass time. I could not believe what I was watching. Like, it changed my brain chemistry.
Yeah.
Especially in the third act. I was shocked that Debbie Moore like signed up to do this. And then I watched her Oscar speech.
Not Oscar, Golden Globe speech.
Golden Globe. Sorry.
She hasn't won the Oscar yet.
She should.
Yeah.
But that was really powerful because she talks about how she's never won anything before, and she was kind of in a low period in her career, and this, you know, really changed that for her. But also it goes with the whole like kind of purpose of the movie. Yep. But I thought the third act, especially, where it just goes balls to the wall crazy, I was like, wow, they went there, and they totally went there. And it was the craziest shit I've ever seen. I'm still thinking about it. Like, I watched this a couple days ago.
When you think they've jumped off the cliff, like, they land on another cliff and jump off that, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Or get pushed off a cliff onto a
I've got to get my physical media guy hat on, too, to say that, because I went out and I bought it on Blu-ray, because, of course, Canada did not get the 4K, and it's like $100 to buy the imported. But I will say, on the Blu-ray, like, anybody that wants to see this, like, support it and buy it, because it's, like, super affordable for a Blu-ray. It's only $16 in Walmart or anywhere else. Where, I mean, as someone that buys Blu-rays and has bought Blu-rays from Walmart, like, a new Blu-ray is like $28 a lot of the times, 24, 28.
Like about half price. Yeah.
Where it's $16 is super affordable, and like, yeah.
Well, if you buy it on iTunes, it's $20.
Yeah, so it's cheaper to just buy it on Blu-ray, and you know, this is like a movie that like people should be supporting.
Mm-hmm.
Does the Blu-ray come with any special features or anything, Rowan?
I haven't looked at it yet. I would imagine it does.
Yeah. I've just seen so much behind-the-scenes footage now where they're obviously positioning Coralie to try and win an Oscar and whatnot, right? So it's just I've seen so much footage and like how a lot of these crazy scenes were filmed. It's just very impressive stuff in there. That's also, hopefully it's on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, hopefully. I'll watch it here soon. But excuse me, Jill, I interrupted.
Oh, no. That's pretty much it. You know, if you haven't seen it and you think it's up your alley, I will say it's probably my new favorite body horror movie, especially because, God, it's just insane. And I need to rewatch it again because it was amazing. But Rowan, what have you been up to?
Me, I've watched a bit. So quickly, my rewatches. I rewatched Colin's Gonna Roll His Eyes. I rewatched Blink Twice again and Trap.
Why? Both of those, why?
So X wanted to watch them, and so they were just movies she didn't go to the theater with me to see, so we watched them one afternoon. So those were my rewatches. I watched Back in Action, which is the new Jamie Foxx, Cameron Diaz film.
Oh, they did another movie together?
This is Cameron Diaz's first film in 10 years.
Holy shit.
And this is the film that Jamie Foxx was making when he had his heart attack. It's a Netflix original, and it is bad. It is not good. It's about...
So it's not Any Given Sunday?
No. I love Any Given Sunday. This is far from
Oh,
it.
me too.
It's a spy movie. They're like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, basically. They're two spies. They work together. They quit the spy business, have a family, and then get roped back into it with their kids. So it's almost like a spy family movie.
Spy Kids?
Yeah, a lot of people like say it's ripping off Spy Kids, but it's weird because it like flirts with being like this like 18 plus movie, but then not really. Like they never just go there. There's like a couple interesting like fight pieces, but it's chopped all to hell. Like so much of the fight stuff, you can tell it's like stunt doubles fighting and not them, and the script is really bad. It's not good. It's directed by the guy who did like Horrible Bosses and stuff. It's not good. That's all the noise I'm gonna give it. And I've been doing a lot of Oscar watching. That's kind of been what I've been focusing on. So I got a lot of the shorts done. I watched The Only Girl in the Orchestra, which is on Netflix, about Oren O'Brien. She was the first female in, I don't know, the orchestra, whatever the big one is. Philharmonic Orchestra or something. I don't know anything about orchestras. It's the one that...
Clearly. You obviously didn't learn anything from the movie either.
It's the one that Leonard Bernstein was the conductor for. Okay. But she was like the first female. She basically like became a rock star back in the 60s or 70s, whenever it was, because she was the first female, so she was like very famous. And basically she's retiring, and her niece made this film about her career and retiring, and I didn't think it was very good. It was pretty slow. I mean, it could have been that I wasn't fully interested in the topic. Oren O'Brien, very lovely lady. She like seemed very sweet, very nice, like very vibrant and energetic for like an older woman. But it was just kind of, the whole film, she complained that, why are you making a documentary about me? I'm not exciting. And it was just literally like all this time, however long this was, like, I think this was a short, so it was only like 40 minutes or something. And her just complaining that she didn't want to be documented, and her niece arguing with her, well, this is why you should be documented. And then they was just back and forth for 40 minutes. And I didn't really enjoy that. Then I watched Instruments of a Beating Heart. This is one that I'm hoping wins, about Amy, who is a Chinese girl in school. And she's young. She's like, they're in like grade 1 or 2. Or sorry, I said Chinese, Japan, Tokyo. I'm trying to get this in my head. I watched these a while ago.
Yikes.
I know. Ouch, guys.
Oh, God.
Nobody who's ever listened to this show would be surprised.
No one's surprised.
That's true.
Yeah. Amy is who they follow. She's so funny. She's so sweet. She basically, all she wants to do is play the drums in this band, because she's in like, I think like grade 2 or something, and then they perform a song, Ode to Joy, for the grade 1s coming in behind them, and they pick people to play in this band, and that's all she wants to do, and it's just about her like trial and tribulations, the fight her stage fright, and work hard enough to play, and it's just adorable. It was really good. It was a real feel-good film. I liked it. Then I watched I'm Not a Robot, which I also really enjoyed. This is Swedish or something. And it's essentially a Black Mirror episode. It's a fictional short, and it's all about, what are they called? Like a CAPTCHA? Like when you have to pick...
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can watch this on YouTube. It's available on YouTube. But yeah, essentially the premise is just a woman can't figure that out, and then it says you might be a robot, and it's her going through an existential crisis.
Nice.
And then lots of craziness ensues. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. Another one I watched was I Am Ready, Warden. This one is a true story. It was about a guy that murdered a father in front of a corner store when he was on drugs. He is on death row. He's used all of his all of his powers to stay the execution. It's going through, and they basically interviewed this father's kids, and it's what you'd expect. It's like this guy trying to say he's ready to die. It continues on even after he dies, and basically does the death penalty actually make the victims feel better, or does it not? And this obviously has an opinion on that, and they portray it. I thought it was all right. One I really, really liked, it was called Incident. This one, it was extremely hard to watch, not to find, just to watch. It was about a police shooting in 2018 in Chicago. The story is told entirely through CCTV cameras and police body footage, and there's no narrator or anything, so sometimes you're just watching no sound CCTV cameras, but you actually watch the police gun this guy down, and basically police are police, so they're trying to hide what they did and all this stuff, and it's just really upsetting. The guy they shot was an innocent guy. He was a hairdresser. And they basically made up a lie and got caught. And of course, did they get fired? No. They got suspended and then retrained and brought back on the job. The worst thing I've watched so far for the Oscars is The 688, which is a Netflix film done by Tyler Perry. This was I see Colton.
What is this nominated for?
So this was
a short again?
No, this was nominated in Best Original Song. I watch every category. I watch everything. This is not good. I really
Have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No.
Well.
Yeah. I someday.
I think that won Best Picture a year or two ago, Rowan. That's interesting that you watch everything in every category.
And that was the most hyped up movie I think I've seen in a very long time.
Someday, Colton. I was at the store the other day and they had the 4K of it. I had it in my hand and then I put it back.
Yeah,
so
I figured.
Someday. But yeah, this is terrible. I mean, I have some very, very strong opinions about Tyler Perry, and this just backs everything up. This is basically a Hallmark made for TV movie, and it's really disappointing because the story I think is really important. It's about the 688, which was all black female army unit in World War II, that basically, was made fun of, wasn't taken seriously. They were given this job that no one wanted to do, which was to sort mail, hangers and hangers full of mail that wasn't getting delivered. And they gave them the job so they would fail and then they could close the unit down. And, like these typical movies, it's not a spoiler, it's history. They solve it, but it's just it's Tyler Perry and his Tyler Perry-ish, just doing terrible writing. The acting's okay. The actors are just working with a bad script. It's not good. It was terrible. That's all I'm saying about it. I got to see A Real Pain, which I liked. I wasn't sure as it was going how I was going to feel about this, but I ended up really enjoying it. Culkin's performance, obviously everyone's talking about.
Yeah, probably a shoe-in at this point. I think he's won every single award show. So. And,
he did his job. He was, the annoying guy, the lovable annoying guy. I'm not a huge Jesse Eisenberg person because I'm just kind of I don't know. He just kind of is him, and then that's his acting.
He directed this one as well, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's his second one that he's directed. His first movie, which I can't even remember, was Insufferable. So this is a huge step up. Imagine a movie being I think it's Finn Wolfhard playing Jesse Eisenberg, essentially, is his directorial debut, and it was torturous.
The only thing more torturous is Timothée Chalamet playing Bob Dylan.
I mean, that movie's not very good, but the issue isn't Timothée Chalamet.
Well, they're both insufferable, so I will never see that movie. It sounds,
Yeah.
but you know what? I'll probably watch that Jesse Eisenberg movie before the Bob Dylan one.
Well, you don't want to see just like 20 Bob Dylan songs performed by Timothée Chalamet.
Oh my god.
That's
Literally,
basically what the movie is.
If you were like, put me in a fucking like camp somewhere and being tortured, that's what you would sit me down in front of. Like,
Too soon.
He's
Too
doing
soon.
like he's doing the Elvis thing too, where he's like performing music as if he's Bob Dylan now, and I'm just like, bro,
Yeah, it's rough.
let's take it down a notch. I'm a Timothée Chalamet fan, but this is a bit much.
So yeah, what else did I see? I finally saw Nora. I really, really liked Nora. That's kind of... Since Insane isn't in the best picture race, and I'm really pulling for The Substance, but my realistic pick is Nora.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty safe pick.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I mean, I feel like everyone's just like, yeah, it's a really good movie, and it is. It's Mikey Madison, like, great performance. I just really liked it. The music's awesome in it. I really, really liked it.
I'm curious, who do you prefer, Mikey Madsen or Demi Moore for lead performance? Because they're going against each other.
Yeah, I probably still Demi Moore.
Okay.
But I mean, like I said, like I like The Substance better than I like Nora. And Nora, to me, it's a weird conversation because, like, I know people love Sean Baker, and I know all the stuff about, like, it's like Pretty Woman, but it's like all these twists and turns. I don't know. I was just kind of like, is this not just like something that Harmony Korine would have made like 10 years ago? Like,
the answer to that
10
is no, 'cause
years
he can't
ago,
make a good
10.
movie.
I just like, I don't know. I was just like, I feel like there's been edgy stuff like this before. I'm not taking anything away from it. Like, it's very well done. It's very good. But to me, just, The Substance to me is like, just like groundbreaking.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, The Substance is literally like my number 1 or number 2 favorite movie of last year. I'm still not 100% sure, but I do think Mikey Madsen gives a better performance.
Oh, okay. I mean, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
She's amazing.
Yeah. I also got to watch Sugar Cane, which is up for documentary. This one hits close to home. This one's on Disney Plus. This one is about the residential schools and when they were discovering the bodies, and just how they focus on the director's like family and how it impacts them. It's a tough watch, but I thought it was pretty good. It's a little long. I thought it could have been edited a little better, but that was really my only big complaint on it. Then I watched Elton John, Never Too Late. It was fun.
I heard that's not very good. Yeah,
it's very long. It's like almost 2 hours long, and I'm not an Elton John guy, so yeah.
I like that one from a few years ago, Rocket Man.
I see. I never saw that.
I thought that was pretty good.
I'm not an Elton John guy. I don't overly like Elton John's music, so I guess this really like didn't do anything for me. And all this stuff they talk about, like, there's nothing groundbreaking in it. It's just like him recapping things that have been very well documented. I guess the interesting part is it's him talking about it. It seemed to me it was very similar, but not as well done or as artistic as Moonage Daydream, where they like try to like use these old interviews and then play it over old footage and stuff. And it just, I thought it was pretty plain. And then the last couple things, I saw September 5th. I really like that. Really, really enjoyed that.
I still haven't seen that one. That was one that I was waiting to see if it was actually going to be in the Oscar talk or not.
Yeah, I kind of wish it got nominated for more stuff than it did. I can see where people would be like, oh, it's pretty mid. Like, it's just kind of this, like, intense journalistic thriller, but it really worked for me. And I thought it was super interesting. The acting was super well done. The last two, I did see Wicked. I finally got to see Wicked.
Oh, I saw.
I
review
saw
for
Letterboxd,
Wicked.
girl.
Oh, God.
Girl.
Our horror hound James Quinn wrote me on Instagram and could not believe that I gave it a 1. He was upset by that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm upset by it too. I think it's just
I thought it was
an
garbage.
Insane take. That's
I thought
insane.
it was garbage. There wasn't
Garbage?
1 star.
There wasn't one good song.
Ro has given like trauma movies 5 stars on Letterboxd.
He's like, oh yeah, Serbian film 4.5.
Yeah,
you know,
there wasn't one good song. I thought
Defying Gravity is like an all-timer, bro.
I
like,
get
it is.
I hated it. I waited for it.
Oh my god.
They butcher it in this movie. They make it like 15 minutes long, but still, like
so
the core of the song is great.
Yeah. It's like if you've never heard a musical before or seen one, like, you know that song.
Yeah, you're triggering me and Mike, which, you know, that means you're definitely on the wrong side of things.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'll stick with Repo and Hedwig and my musicals. This wasn't me. This wasn't for me. I thought it looked bad. I didn't like anything about it.
I agree.
Way too long.
Like,
it's way too
so
long.
ugly. It's one of the ugliest movies of last year. It's not Deadpool and Wolverine, but I mean, it's pretty ugly. But still, like, the movie is good. That's crazy.
I thought it was bad.
We're gonna have to do a now slaying for Wicked for good next year.
You gotta like tilt the like cosmic scales a bit back a bit.
Yeah.
I saved the best thing for last, the most enjoyable. So shout out to Josh at TerraVision. So we did some giveaways this week that passed, and we got to watch the original Amityville Horror in the theater on its new 4K release.
I've still never seen that. I've seen none of the Amityville movies. Yeah.
So this is I was talking to Josh before it played, and I was saying I think this is only the second time I've ever seen this, and I don't remember it. Like, I saw it when I was a kid. I don't think I ever saw Amityville Horror again. So it was kind of like a first time watch.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he had some date issues, so it got announced really late. So it was kind of interesting because it wasn't a very full crowd. There might have been 30 of us there, maybe a little over 30. But it was just interesting because there was a lot of people there. Of course, he asks, like, how many people have seen this before?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people there that had never seen it. I saw, like, a dad there with his kid. Like, there was parents and bringing their kids. And it looked fantastic.
Hey, honey, you too can get chopped up by an axe.
Yeah, I don't know much about Amityville, but I feel like it's not a kid's movie. But
and you know what? It was a good time. Like I said, it's horror, so I'm not going to, reveal all. But it's always a good time at TerraVision, and it was cool to see it on the big screen, and lots of people got to go home with cool stuff. Someone got a t-shirt, someone got a Stephen King DVD collection set we gave them, and I forget some other movies. There was a 4K or something, and yeah, stuff got given away. Okay. And last but not least, Mike, what have you been up to?
Well, I'm glad you saved me for last because, like, nothing. I had a really good, like, last couple months of 2024, but, like, man, 2025 is not off to a good start. Like,
I was gonna say, that's a shame. I've been seeing you, like, log so much stuff on Letterboxd, like, over the past couple of months. You're like, I don't know, a couple times a week you'll have 2 or 3 things.
Yeah. And I listen, I had a few bad weeks, and now part of it was that I was working a lot and I was sick. So that's my excuse. But yeah. I did actually get to go out and see a movie in theaters, which was nice. I haven't done that in a while. But I'll start off with the garbage thing that I watched first. So I got sick last week for, like, not even 2 days. It was like one of those, like, day and a half, like, you're really sick and then you're fine. But the night that I got sick, I took, like, a bunch of meds and decided I was gonna, like, get into bed and not even put on my TV, like, put on my laptop and just put on Prime and find some, like, garbage from, like, the 80s or 90s that I'd seen before and, like, fall asleep to it. So I put on Baby Boom, which, if you don't know, is, like, an old Diane Keaton movie from the 80s where she's like, oh, like a career woman, like in the big business and, doing her thing and breaking through the glass ceiling, and then somebody, like, or one of her relatives, like, dies and leaves her a baby. It's so, like, preposterous, but it's the type of, like, over the top, like, makes not a lick of sense 80s movie that is really fun to watch. So I put that on and was like, oh yeah, okay, this is cool. Like, I love Diane Keaton. Like, That's fine. I fell asleep about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes into it. So I was like, I cannot log this because I only saw like a fifth of it. But so I like kept drifting in and out of sleep, but I was like really high from the medication. And I kept waking up. And apparently when you watch like Prime on like a browser, when the movie's over, it just plays another random movie that's sort of similar to it. And I did not know that because I only ever watched Prime like on the TV app. So I'd kept waking up all night and there was like these weird movies playing and I'm like, what the fuck?
Why is Baby Boom 8 hours long?
I know. I was like, my God, my laptop is still going. I just thought it would play for, 90 minutes and then turn off. And so at one point I had to get up and call in sick to work. So I actually had to like wake up and like make a phone call. So I ended up actually just staying awake then, and a movie had just started. It was like a minute and a half, 2.5 minutes in. So I was like, fuck it, I'm up now. I'm feeling sick. I'm lying in bed. I'm going to watch this. And it was garbage. But it was like fun garbage that I couldn't stop watching. So I don't know if everybody knows the 90s romantic dramedy The Cutting Edge.
No.
Okay, so if you don't, it's actually it kind of like got forgotten about. It was like kind of a minor hit in the 90s. But now there's about 400 romance books that sell like hotcakes that are literally just a ripoff of it. And it's about a figure skater and a hockey player who are forced to like team up. And then they have this like, ooh, they're like, fighting and she's prim and proper and he's, messy hockey player and like, but they are like attracted to each other. So they actually like did that. And then like in the 2000s, I guess before the direct to DVD boom died, they made several other direct to video sequels to it. So I woke up when the third Cutting Edge movie started, and
are they like skating in space at that point, or?
I wish. Oh no! See, in this one they switched it up. Yeah. See, Icebreaker. Yeah. Jill is holding up the #1 ripoff book of it. Called Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Yeah, except, see, in this movie, they, like, swapped it out, and the girl is the hockey player. Ooh, plot twist.
Oh.
The girl's the rough and tumble one, and it's the man who's the figure skater, and, his partner fell down, and, he needs somebody who can skate, and she's rough and tumble, but, like, used to do figure skating, and it's so awful. That's the film right there, like literally in a nutshell. It was really bad, but
I interrupted you. Cutting Edge 3. What was happening in Cutting Edge 3?
Cutting Edge 3. It literally, they figure skate, they go to nationals, they win, boom. Okay. Like it's literally just it's the most disposable thing I could have watched. I think I gave it like 1.5 stars on Letterboxd, which I've only done like 4 times. Maybe.
Yeah, it's almost Wicked tier. Almost.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's not that bad.
This like direct to DVD in like 2010 movie with a former cast member of the 90210 reboot. Like, oh my God. Anyway, so I watched that. That was a movie that I saw while I was coming down off of cold medication. At 8 o'clock in the morning or like 7 o'clock. But then like later on that week when I was feeling better, I did actually get to go out to the theaters and see The Last Showgirl on the last night that it was playing here. I enjoyed it. I didn't like love it. I didn't think it was like groundbreaking, but I had fun with it. I loved the cast. The needle drops were excellent. Jamie Lee Curtis's wig and makeup deserves an Oscar because it's insane. And like if you've seen the movie, it's like insanely over the top and it's like very kind of like white trash, like trailer park sort of. I'm not saying that derogatorily, but like, it's that kind of like that's what they were trying to go for. And I was trying to figure out why it like struck a chord with me. And then I realized that there's a lady that I get on the same bus as like 3 days a week that has the same makeup job and very similar hair. So I was like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis looks like, my bus buddy.
Bus buddy.
I don't know her name, but she's like, we always end up on the same bus at the same time, like multiple times a week. So it's just, I thought it was kind of funny. Yeah, I thought it was, a good movie. It's like nothing great, but I enjoyed it. It was a decent way to spend whatever it was, an hour and a half.
Are you shocked that it was one of my least favorite things I saw at TIFF?
No, I'm not shocked at all. Like, not even a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't
Not
think so,
even a little bit.
Yeah.
But, like, I have to say, there was a lot about it that was obviously, it was a very flawed movie, but I thought it was actually kind of fun and touching and charming.
Never showing the actual, like, burlesque show and not really showcasing Vegas very well either were two things for me when I was watching it. I was just like, I thought at least we'd be able to see this great show or like shitty show or whatever at the end of the movie. Just never showing it. I was like, okay, it feels like a budgetary thing for me when I was watching it.
I was glad that we didn't, because whether it was supposed to be actually good or, just trash that, has been living on its reputation from the 80s for decades, it would have been a disappointment, so I'm kind of glad that we didn't see it, because it would have been a letdown. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite moments that I have seen all year did occur in this movie, and it was Ms. Jamie Lee Curtis in her full cocktail waitress getup, climbing on a little stage in the middle of the casino and doing an insane dance to the classic of all time, Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart. And literally the people that I went to see it with, as soon as the piano at the beginning of the song started, we gasped and turned to look at each other. It was like gay gasp. So yeah, honestly, other than that, unfortunately, I have not really watched very much because your boy has been Marvel Rivals pilled, and that has been my time sink. It came out 2 months ago, and I have 160 hours.
Such a dirtbag.
And all of my friends play it, so I'm just always wow. I'm at work going, when can I get home and play Marvel Rivals?
Now I have to know, did you pay full attention to 28 Days Later, or were you playing Marvel Rivals with this on another monitor?
Okay, see, here's the thing. So that is actually a very good question. Right there.
That's the answer.
I knew that so I had to watch 28 Days Later on my laptop, and I knew that if I just left it on my laptop screen that I would turn the game on my TV, so I just plugged my HDMI cable in and beamed it to the TV so that I would have no choice but to turn off my PlayStation and indeed focus on the actual movie that we were watching. So
I still remember when we did the Medium as a Patreon pick, and you revealed halfway through that you were playing Elden Ring at the same time as watching this foreign language Thai movie. I was like, bro, it's impossible to pay attention to this. Yeah.
Just like me watching Jaws on my phone on an hour and a half bus ride home.
Yeah, the way Spielberg intended.
Yeah, oh my god. Literally, Martin Scorsese is literally outside my house with a butcher knife.
Absolutely.
You fucking piece of shit. But yeah, so that's literally been my time suck, and yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a perfect segue. We've already announced what the film is. You guys chose it. 2002, 28 Days Later. It was coming down. I didn't know Videodrome. It was between this and Videodrome. And I feel like Videodrome's one of those ones that has been in the race a couple years now.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit shocked about this. I was like, who would not vote for Videodrome? But anyway, here we are.
Yeah, I'm a little shocked as well. Personally, I definitely prefer just Videodrome anyways. But also Videodrome for a lot of the polls was kind of like a dark horse. It was never getting a shitload of votes. It was always The Fly. And for whatever reason, 28 Days Later, we're just picking up so many votes every single bracket. It was always a landslide. So the fact that Videodrome actually even made it to the finals was a little bit surprising to me. But, yeah, it just all shook out this way for 28 Days Later.
So, with that, why don't we get to the trailer, and then we'll get to the synopsis and first experiences.
In the blink of an eye, the world he knew was gone. See the only movie this summer that's a stunningly scary hit, striking and original.
They're infected! Infected with what?
A genre-busting vision.
Use the blood of something in the blood.
And it's scary as hell.
Hey, did you hear that? You know what?
28 Days Later. Rated R. Starts Friday, June 27th.
28 Days Later was directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland, and the story is as follows. When London bike courier Jim wakes up from a month-long coma, he finds his city all but deserted. In the month preceding, a deadly virus known as rage has spread across Great Britain, causing a complete societal collapse and those infected to exhibit zombie-like traits. Jim soon stumbles upon a group of survivors, and together they embark on a perilous journey to escape London and leave the rage virus behind.
So, our first experiences, is this our first time seeing this film? Or are we also full of rage? And, I don't know, I was going to try to make some sort of Smashing Pumpkins rhyme, but then I was like, it's a little played out. Yeah. So yeah, first time seeing this. Jill, was this your first time seeing this?
This is not my first time seeing this. Stuff from this era, like the early 2000s, 2002, I think this movie came out in, right? It is right up my alley. That's kind of the stuff I grew up on, you know, renting those movies at the gas station when I was, you know, an adolescent. And this was one of the ones that me and my friends rented and watched. And, you know, I have a lot of nostalgia attached to this one because it's one we rented a couple of times because we liked, I don't know, the dry humor of it all.
And the full frontal nudity.
My third note is Cillian Murphy full frontal. I bet Mike is happy.
My second note, cold open cock shot. Very legendary.
See, I'm not a dirtbag, so I didn't know anything about nudity, but you know,
oh, you're too good for that. What else were you doing at the gas station, Jill? Huh?
Rude. But no, it's one that's kind of fond of just because it's like the kind of zombie movie, I guess, that I was first introduced to. So yeah, what about you, Colton?
Yeah, I would say this is probably my introduction to zombies as well. I remember watching this at my grandparents' house. They had this huge, like, 52-inch CRT TV, like the really big fat ones.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know why they rented this. Basically, it'd be like a weekly movie night where usually they'd rent, like, a kid's movie and then, like, the adult movie. And for whatever reason, they chose 28 Days Later one week. And I remember sitting down as, like, you know, the kid who was like 10 or 11. I was able to watch the adult movie, and I was just like, what a weird choice for, you know, my dad.
They probably thought that it was the Sandra Bullock dramedy 28 Days where she goes to rehab.
I wouldn't
that came
be
out around the same time.
I legitimately wouldn't be shocked because they don't ever watch horror, and like horror was never chose. It was oftentimes just like Oscar bait, you know, family drama, dramedy sort of shit. So
they 100% thought it was Sandra Bullock's dramedy.
Yeah, so I was just sat
days.
there watching 28 Days Later and just kind of like shocked by what I was seeing. It's not something that I've watched too many times. Like I've seen this in 28 weeks, and obviously I'm looking forward to 28 years to see how that all shakes out later this year. But, you know, it's something I've seen probably twice, I would say, throughout my life, and very formative memories of at least kind of like the end of the movie, like a lot of like the firefights and action and the shooting, that sort of part. I remember seeing that like as a kid on like this huge TV. What about you, Mike?
So I actually saw this in theaters because old. And actually it's funny because one of my memories of it is that, it was so long ago. It might have even been like when they were actually using like film projectors, because it was one of the first times I think in my life that I went to a movie and like it like stopped. I can't remember if like the power went out or if there was a technical error and it like the video stopped playing or something like that. But I remember like 15 minutes into the movie or like 10 minutes into the movie, they had to stop it. And we were just sitting there for like 20 minutes until it started up again. So that was weird. I've had that happen numerous times since, but it's mostly because I just think they were playing DVDs. It's like, hit play.
The Wi-Fi goes down. I remember that.
Yeah, they were streaming it off of Netflix. They're like, just don't put the Netflix logo out on the screen. Just hit it right after. And they're like, make sure that when you renew the subscription, you get the one without the ads. But yeah, so I saw it in theaters back in the day. And then of course saw, you know, weeks, whatever that was, like 2-3 years later, maybe longer, I don't know. And we watched it again in preparation for that. And although I enjoyed it and like my friend group enjoyed it, like for whatever reason, kind of like Colton, like I've probably only seen it like 3 times over the years, maybe 4, depending. I was living with someone for like 4 years where she would literally, like, she had a fucking wall of like DVDs and shit, and so she'd always have movies going. Like if she was home, and we didn't have cable, so she would just always have something playing on the TV, and that was like in the early days of streaming, and we didn't really like have the money for that, so she would just always have movies playing. So I probably saw it like once or twice, just sort of like while I was doing other things. But yeah, it's not one that I revisit all the time. What about you, Ro?
Yeah, not the first time I've seen it. I was trying to think if I saw this in the theater. I don't remember, but it seems like something I would have saw in the theater. But I feel like I definitely rented it when it came out. And yeah, this is one I feel like I watched a lot when it came out, and it was I think I owned this on like VHS or DVD or whatever. I guess it would have probably been DVD 2002. But like everyone else, it's one that I haven't overly revisited. Now I know, I Jill knows too, because me and Jill have yapped about this before of looking for this on Blu-ray. Physical media corner here. This is extremely hard to get in physical media. I literally saw someone had a copy of this on Blu-ray for sale like yesterday for like $180.
Oh my god.
This is like a grail right now, because they stopped printing it. They don't print the Blu-ray of this anymore. They only did it kind of when they first came out on Blu-ray. You could either buy the 2 individually or as a double feature set. I was lucky enough that before, I guess, the bubble of the last couple years, that I bought this at Traders. Shout out to Traders.
Oh my god, shout out to Traders, where you buy all of your stolen goods.
Yeah, I bought a double feature of this, and 28 weeks later for like $3 or something. But now the physical media has kind of turned into like vinyl collecting. Like people are online paying at least, $80 for this. So I know it's hard, and it doesn't until recently. You couldn't VOD it, you couldn't stream it. There was some rights issues.
That's so weird, because like I feel like the DVD of this was like omnipresent in like the 2010s.
The DVD is pretty easy to get a hold of. It's the Blu-ray, which we'll talk about later on, but like there's no difference. Like it's just a simple transfer.
Well,
but yeah, so like I said, like you guys, I just haven't really watched. Like I don't even know the last time I watched this. Probably 15 years ago, like something like that at least. But yeah, not my first time seeing it. But with that, let's open up the cans of Pepsi. I think they were drinking Pepsi in this, right? Yeah,
they were.
Oh my god.
Let's get our sugar rush on.
Pepsi was omnipresent.
Yeah, let's talk about 28 Days Later. This one, I was kind of nervous for us to like talk about, because I feel, this is like such a cult classic now, which is insane, as I gave that speech about physical media that it wouldn't be more available. I mean, maybe that's helped cultivate, the buzz.
It's like mystique. It's an enigmatic.
But I mean, right off the bat, do we want to talk about, I would think younger people maybe coming to this film might be a little like disturbed by the quality of this film.
Quality
younger
is...
as in age 32, I assume.
Yeah.
Because I was quite disturbed. It's the scariest part of the movie easily for me.
420p.
Yep.
Yeah, it's wild. Did you look up? They shot this on like a Canon XL1.
Rowan, I'm not joking. Probably outside of the Cillian Murphy full frontal, like probably the first 9 to 10 notes are about stylistic choices with this about how terrible it is until it says, okay, I finally had to Google it. This was shot on some $5,000 consumer grade video camera, and apparently it was an intentional choice to make the film feel more real and immediate, but it just looks like absolute trash now, which is just crazy at the time. Like, this is like going behind the scenes already, production and stuff. I understand they were working with very tight production I was
going to say, I thought it was just because they were like, we have 3 hours to shoot in the morning, like we can't use real cameras.
Yes, and that's what they said as well. But for me, I was watching this and I was like, why is it so blurry? Why is the color grading so weird? Why is all the whites blown out? Why is this? Why does it feel like an 80s like cheesy B movie? And then I was finally like, okay, I just got to Google this because it feels like they shot this on a fucking toaster oven. And I
LG smart fridge.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
No, sorry.
Exactly.
No offense to LG smart fridges.
And then I searched it up and I was just like, oh, no wonder like this is just so hard to find and like so hard to get a good version of it. It's because it doesn't exist. It's like it's all 480p no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So, we're watching this I was like on a 4K TV.
Yeah, me too.
That, according to the math of people saying, it's like the original image quality would have taken up 4% of my screen. So it's just like, I was watching this and I was just like, this just looks like trash. Absolute trash.
Okay, can I just say that, first of all, I forgot to say that one of the things that was sucking up my time besides Marvel Rivals is that I decided to start playing Minecraft again.
That's a terrible life choice, but...
I know. Well, guess what? The other day when PlayStation Network went down for 24 hours on my day off, the only thing I could do was play Minecraft. But it's so funny because I was watching this and I was like, on my TV, I was like, this looks like Minecraft zombies.
Minecraft
like,
the movie.
Yeah, Minecraft the movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I get all that. But I also was very jarred probably the first, 10 minutes. Because, like I said, I hadn't seen this in at least, 15 years.
I literally thought it was the wrong movie from the cold open. Like, with, the chimpanzee and all that stuff. It's like, oh, there must be another movie, with 28 in it or something that I clicked on. Because it looked, so terrible. I was just like, I couldn't believe what I was watching.
So, am I in the only camp, though? After I got used to it, I thought it kind of worked.
Me too.
I kind of liked it.
It adds to the realness of it, and that's one of the things I like about 28 Days Later is that the whole thing is very real, just in the colors and everything alone, but also the attitude towards everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, can I say something?
Yeah. Well,
no.
Go for it.
Okay, I was just going to say, so my attitude when I was rewatching it, because I haven't seen it obviously in many years, was I totally get for the first half of the movie, how stylistically it does kind of gel with the the form and the content sort of coalesce. But I wish they had switched to proper cameras once you got out of the city. Because it could have been and they were in that house, and they could have had it could have looked really cool with some nice lighting and nice camera work. I just it's just judging because I was this was one of the first big digital video handheld things, right? And I had to get Colton, I was going on Wiki and I was oh yeah, and they said it was because they were shooting in the morning and all that, and that totally makes sense. But I was so why? I mean. I don't know. I wouldn't have been angry if they switched the whole aesthetic of the movie once you got out of the city.
Yeah, dip the black, come back. Most people wouldn't even notice that the camera quality changed. For me, when I was watching it, there are certain shots, let's say, for example, when he's walking across the bridge and they do a really wide shot.
Yeah.
It's obviously you have to get lucky with that. You're shooting for 45 minutes after dawn is what they say. And, you have to have everything locked off. No civilians, no cars, nothing like that. I understand, the time, in order to get that executed, and especially from working on sets, largely the longest 2 shots of your day is the first shot of the day to get everyone motivated to do it, and then the first shot after lunch because everyone's, feeling full after lunch and doesn't want to get back to work. So I understand that it's, time is imperative to get shots like that, but there's loads of shots in this movie that is just shot on a small block of a street, and that is a lot more easier to lock off. I've had to do that numerous times in my career, having it locked off, in order to film or make things look period or whatnot. So there are certain shots in this movie where I go, yeah, absolutely. The only way you can get this is like complete lock off, huge, perimeter setup where no one can wander in. A lot of bodies are required to lock that off and do it safely. But it's not the whole movie. Like, and realistically, in terms of like wandering around streets and stuff, we're talking about 20 minutes of probably a 2-hour movie. So to make the whole aesthetic direction based off of filming on these streets for, an eighth of the movie just felt it was a weird choice for me. Like, once again, it was something that I personally never got used to the entire movie. And it was so jarring that even though everyone online talks about how like the final scene, the ending is shot on like better cameras, it was immediately like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, it's a movie. Like, for the last 60 seconds of this, it looks like an actual movie, after sitting through like 2 hours of sludge, essentially. Like, in order to, like, I just never got used to the aesthetic. I always thought it was terrible looking.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just a dirtbag.
Well, Jill said she liked it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, or got used to it.
Yeah, I also don't remember it looking that bad. But maybe that's why I haven't like rewatched it. Also,
me and Jill seen a lot of Tubi movies, guys. So we're like,
oh, girl, all I do is watch Tubi movies.
Yeah, not like guys do until you watch Chupa.
Oh, no.
He watches
Let me
more
tell
than
you.
us.
I go on YouTube and watch VHS rips of Shannon Doherty TV movie thrillers from NBC from 1995 that are not even 480p. They're like 220.
You win the dirtbag contest.
I am a dirtbag.
It's not only just the image quality. It is like the lighting. It is the color grading. It is the sound effects, which are all fucking stock sound effects for a lot of this movie. It is the score, which for whatever reason sounds like copyright-free, like Western wandering sort of music.
So apparently, I wrote a note.
I couldn't believe it.
That was, I heard a lot of what I thought was Wilhelm screams. So I Googled it. There's only one confirmed Wilhelm scream in this whole movie.
Yeah, and I picked it up right away. But there's a stock vase breaking sound effect. There's stock metal door opening sound effects that if you play video games, you've heard them hundreds of times. There is like so much stock stuff used in this that it like, to say it was only a choice for like filming in London in the early morning, I think it was honestly just a choice that for whatever reason he wanted this to feel like low budget, amateurish for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Maybe it's the like callback to a time, like, for example, like when they were filming Night of the Living Dead, and it was like, oh, it's like, ragtag, no money, like everybody's making it like we're gonna like get through this by the skin of our teeth, but like kind of like, it's like slumming it almost, like.
Yeah, but
if you look at the movies he did before this, it's like they looked good, man. Like they had budgets.
It's like the bro made Train Spotting, and it's just like
I was like Train Spotting and Shallow Grave are like two of my favorite movies from England in the 90s. Like,
yeah, and then
I think they're masterpieces.
And then it's like this, and I'm just like, I don't understand like how we got here. And then to say like, oh, okay, it's low budget. It's like, yes, obviously to make this sort of movie for $8 million is very impressive, especially with a lot of the city stuff that they had to do. But it's like, it's still $8 million. Like, it's not, someone didn't throw this together for like $20K with like a passion project of like a ragtag group of people. There was hundreds of people working on this movie. So yeah, I don't know. The style of this, everything stylistically, sound, music, score, everything, even some of the casting in the opening scene, it was just instantly like, it just felt like 80s cheesy B movie to me, and I don't know
those
why.
Those monkeys could not act. That
True.
One that rattled its cage for like 5 minutes at the end of the scene could not act.
True, absolutely.
See, I thought it all I kind of liked it. Like I thought it was interesting. Like I could see people could get annoyed. Like a lot of weird camera angles. Like he was always kind of slanted in all his camera angles. I found. Like, I really liked the scene where Jim's, like, getting explained kind of the rules or whatever, and, like, the camera's behind Selena's head, so it's, like, on the right, we just see, what's his name, Mark or whatever, and he's, like, talking, but it's like almost completely black for like 3/4 of the screen because it's just her head, the back of her head, and then you have him, and then it like kind of would look at Jim on the left, and it would be like kind of like tilted, but then you'd still have like Selena's head blocking it. Like I just thought some of it was like an interesting choice. It was a choice, and I thought it worked fairly well.
It's almost video game like that, like over the shoulder, like Leon Kennedy.
And maybe I was trying to, find stuff to get hyped up about it with, but like...
Okay, speaking of hype,
I was just gonna say...
You didn't even mention Naomi Harris.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, hello, our queen from Moonlight.
Yeah.
She's great in this, too. Like,
yeah.
The main cast, I think, is very good in the movie. Like, Cillian Murphy's good, Naomi Harris is good, Brendan Gleeson's good. Like, when he showed up in the movie, I was like immediately like, oh, good. Thank God. Like, there's
You're like, thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, he's here. He's always good, pretty, like a good addition to like 95% of movies I've seen him in. Like, he's just great, right? So I saw him in this, I was like, good. We got a like little family unit to kind of embark on this quest. So yeah, the casting is not something I had an issue with. I thought they all did a very good job, and obviously Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris, well, I think Brandon Gleeson is like an Oscar nominee too. All these people went on to have like, very
insane
lauded,
careers,
acting careers, right?
I mean, I'll just say I'll be very interested to see, because it's inevitable they re-release all these movies when the new one comes out.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just interested, like, they're gonna want to do 4Ks of these. And I just I don't know how that would work. It won't
happen.
Yeah,
you can't do it. It's literally like I watched this today on a 70-inch 4K TV. Not bragging, it's a Costco TV from 5-6 years ago. But it was just, I'm not joking. It was so blurry and blown out on that it's like a 4K transfer is like impossible. Like, unless they just want to steal money from people, because the only the only option you can do is AI upscaling, and when you do that, all these pixels and stuff are so stretched out and blocky. You're gonna get scary ass faces by doing that. It's not gonna look good if they decide to go that way.
You are not getting 4K penis on this movie.
Absolutely not.
I don't think it would work anyway. Because, see, to me, I felt the graininess did help with some of the scare stuff. Because where I'm like, oh, it's real blurry. I don't really... Because, I mean, one of the things with this film is the chaos of it. The chaos going on. And I guess it just added to my viewing of chaos. I'm like, I can't really see what's going on.
When that kid comes from the back...
Oh, yeah,
like a monkey
yeah.
and just pounces. That was actually really scary in 3 pixels.
Am I crazy though? Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder, and I'm not a Snyder defender. He released that probably a year or two after this movie, probably very much based off the success of this movie. That movie's really well shot and stylistic and over the top, and basically Zack Snyder leans into a lot of his worse aspects of overusing slow-mo and stuff. But that movie was still scary and chaotic, and in my opinion is a very good kind of touch point for the zombie genre coming back in the early 2000s. So I don't think having a inherently bad quality or bad aesthetic to the movie makes it so your zombie movie can't be scary. I guess Zack Snyder proved it 2 years after. He did a very good Dawn of the Dead remake in my opinion. So when I was watching this, in my head, this movie looked like Dawn of the Dead in terms of oh, it was a great quality. I watched it on this huge ass CRT TV as a kid. But when I threw it on my TV now, it was just I was shocked to see what I was, I was shocked with what was on my screen. I literally swapped where I was viewing it 3 or 4 times to different qualities, different everything to see I was I gotta be watching the worst version, and they were just all the same. All of them. So
Rowan, I'm surprised you haven't talked about Chris Eccleston. Have you been watching Doctor Who?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god,
yet.
I know. I was gonna say Doctor Who, the fucking reboot Doctor Who himself.
Number 9.
OG Doctor Who and Rose,
Major Henry West.
Yeah, I did look it up. I saw that he was a doctor. Yeah. It's just it seems like fate. I have to watch Doctor Who because it keeps crossing my path.
You do.
On
my god, I'm not a Doctor Who person, but the first 5 seasons of the reboot, starting with him,
You are a
almost
Doctor Who
made
person,
me.
don't lie.
I was, yes, okay. I just haven't watched it in like 10 years.
I feel like right embarrassed now too after Colton's rant. I got like delete notes because one of my notes.
Listen,
what
go right ahead and
like,
say
I
what
can't
you
say
have.
any of
I
this.
honestly don't have a whole lot. Like I probably have 25 notes for this movie, and the first like 10 are complaining about aesthetics, right? Like so.
One of my notes, other than cinematography, I said really like the music in this. Really like the score.
I'm sorry.
Shit's all over.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I liked it because I thought it was very 2002. You know, this kind of reminds me of like anything we've ever done in this era that Colton complains about. Like I didn't think Colton would like this at all, music wise, score, psalm wise. I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. I liked some of the indie music they use. Obviously, they just use instrumentals in it.
Brian Eno, indie musician Brian Eno. Sorry.
I thought it was fantastic. I thought it worked. I liked the vibes of it. I mean, to me, a big, other than the quality of it, the big conversation I feel like you're forced to have with this is, you know, how do we feel about, this isn't the first film to have fast zombies. It's the first modern film to have fast zombies. Like, how do you feel about fast zombies? Like, does that work for you? Do you prefer them slow? I remember that, I mean, I feel like most people, the only thing I remember about this film is, I don't know so much that it's scary when I'm watching it, but my memory of it was like, man, I remember those zombies scaring the shit out of me because they were just like crazy fast.
Yeah. I think they're scarier when they're fast and like jerky movement like that because you don't really know what's going to happen. And like that big pounce I just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit's scary, man.
The tunnel scene, I will say, like I made a note of that. I was like, that's one of the set pieces that I always remember from this movie. I don't even remember exactly what it is. I remember the girl like being under the car and then being in the tunnel, and it's like, you know, a race against time, and like it's very white knuckle, I will say that. And I think the frenetic editing that they do that actually makes me want to throw up, I realized. Maybe it's because I'm old and I'm like, oh god, I can't, like, you know, I can't get on fucking Ferris wheels and shit anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Because I'm gonna vomit all over the place.
But
Ferris wheels do me in as well. I can ride roller coasters all day long. Ferris wheel, I'm puking my guts up. But yeah, fast zombies, I think it's a great choice as well. Like, I think they're far scarier when they're fast like this. I do think, like, when I was starting the movie, the fact that the virus kind of latches on so quickly and like reanimates or overtakes the person in like 10 to 20 seconds, I was a little bit like, I thought that was a little goofy in the beginning. But I do think, like, just kind of like as the movie goes on and you see that happen more and more, and like just how violent this virus is, I did come around on it that I did like it as a choice. And I do agree that it's just like, you know, obviously Romero, you know, OG, but like the shambling zombies that are very slow, it's like they can only ever really get you if you're get backed into a corner and there's like, you know, dozens of them that you're just kind of like swarmed. With these, it's just like one feels very lethal, and, you know, in the third act of this movie we learn how lethal just one can be, even against like a bunch of, you know, highly trained armed soldiers, you know.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say, I liked too the kind of the addition of making it like this contagion of, you know, the blood in your mouth, the blood kind of in your eye, the orifices, where like a more traditional Romero zombie, like, you know, our heroes in those movies have blood all over them, and it's whatever, they just don't get bit, right? Like,
well, it's like, exactly. So
this to me made a lot more sense.
You don't have to die in this one, which is that's the scary part, right? Like the scary thing in a traditional zombie movie is that they're actually zombies and they're the undead, whereas this is not zombies. This is, you know, a virus. So, and I mean, I think too, watching this after the last like 5 years, it does like have this really eerie quality because, you know, in my mind, I always think about it as a zombie movie. And then when I was watching, I was like, oh yeah, it isn't actually zombies. It's, you know, a contagion. And then I was watching it and like the opening scene and the like laboratory and stuff, and I was like, man, they were onto something. Like, this is, I mean, I know it's like it's a trope in horror movies to, you know, have a contagion escape, you know, and stuff and spread, but like, I don't know. There's just something about this that, you know, like I said, yeah, it's the easy contamination. You don't have to die. You know, all you have to do is like be exposed to something, and then you're fucked, right? And then the next person is exposed, and the next person, and it's like Colton said, it's one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Yeah, the only way this could be more prescient if it was you know, like 5G. You know, transferring it all.
5G, yeah. Chemtrails, like.
Next episode, Mike's coming on with like a gruff voice and Alex Jones voice, and he's going to be, they predicted it.
What was eerie a little bit about, like, obviously these London streets being vacant and whatnot, there was a lot of people I remember around COVID with the lockdowns. They were able to go to like very busy places in the world and get very similar shots of just like the streets cleared of everybody. And when I was seeing those, I was like, oh, I mean, that aspect is correct. The supermarket being completely stocked full of goods a month after, I don't think makes much sense to me, but you know. There was some parts that rang true to, you know, my experience of living through a global pandemic.
I did like those scenes because I also kept thinking about, because like I worked during COVID, so like I would go to the grocery store after work, and it was like there was lots of times I was the only one in the grocery store, like the only one in the parking lot, like other than, you know, like 2 workers that were working. Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, you know, it's eerie for some, quite nice for others like me. I was like, this is awesome. I love this. You know, I was living my best life back then, just still buying Blu-rays and DVDs and nobody in my way to do it.
Me at the grocery store, I was like angry when somebody came down my aisle. I'm like, this is my aisle. What the fuck do you think you're doing? Get over there. Get in the cereal aisle, you stupid asshole. Like,
so I was going to say, I saw, you know, we were talking about, one of us had said zombie and then said infected, but I always thought it was interesting, a little pretentious. Danny Boyle just kind of refusing to consider this a zombie movie.
Yeah, that's stupid. You know,
especially when like Alex Garland has said like this is just based off of Romero's movies and all that. It's like, we get it, man. You want to seem cool.
It's like when the people discuss The Walking Dead and they're like, oh, it's actually not about the zombies. It's just, you know, it's about the people. It's not a zombie comic or a zombie TV show. It's just like, okay, but like,
it's like neither were the original. Neither was Night of the Living Dead. Like, these films were also not really about zombies.
No, but it's just like, obviously, they're so prevalent as like the antagonist of the movies, you know, the creature that they're all fighting against. It's just, I don't know, it's like highbrow nonsense to like not call this a quote unquote zombie movie, you know?
It's a zombie movie. And every good zombie movie is going to do both. You're going to have good monsters, and you're going to have people who are uglier than the monsters.
Every zombie movie just tells us that, like, you know, man and humankind just worse than zombies. It's just, like, inherently in there all the time. Which, is where this, to me, gets scary. I've said lots of times, this is, like, my scary thing is, like, not only things that are true to life, but, like society breaking down. I that always creeps me out the most. And like, once we get to the mansion and stuff with the army guys, like, that's where it actually gets scary for me. Because, like, you know, crazy men trying to rebuild society, which is very, you know, that obviously, like, these beats very Day of the Dead from Romero.
I literally wrote, this is Handmaid's Tale shit. It's so funny that Jill brought that up earlier.
Yeah, just all that kind of stuff. I thought it was really funny because I couldn't remember. Like, I was like, oh, okay, I'm trying to think of the beats of what are going to happen in this mansion. And I couldn't remember. I was like, am I remembering Resident Evil? Or am I remembering
that was the same with me. The Spencer Mansion. When I was watching this, I was like, oh, very Resident Evil. Then the fact that it's like, oh, it's not zombies, it's a virus, you know?
Yeah.
I was getting shades of that as well.
Because I knew coming up, I was like,
T-virus, like, come on.
Well, I knew coming up, I was like, I feel like, you know, they try to, you know, take the women and they, you know, they want to, like, rape them and breed them or whatever. But then I kept being like, did that also happen in Resident Evil, the movie? I was like, I can't remember. And yeah, just the mansions kind of, had me twisted there for a little bit. Like I said, I really got to look at my notes without being judged from Colton, because my next note just says, all the beats still hit very hard after all this time. Emotional, scary, just expert indie filmmaking. Sorry about that, Colton. But I mean, like I said,
but it's not indie. Like, that's the thing.
Well, yeah,
it's not, right?
It's made to look indie.
It is expert if this movie was made for $1 million
aesthetic.
and actually indie, and like, it wasn't an intentional choice. This was. I understand it's a lower budget than a lot of movies, but it's still millions upon millions of dollars.
I mean,
more than a lot of things. Right?
So after I wrote that note, it wasn't until after I watched it, I looked it up. I'm like, I wonder what the budget was on this. And then I was like, oh, yeah, shit. But to me, when I wrote that, what I was really thinking about was, and you brought it up, was like when Brendan Gleeson comes in, and like I felt like a lot of like the family story when he turns, even Cillian Murphy like killing the child, then coming out and just trying to like erase it from memory and not tell anyone what happened. Like I felt like so many of the emotional beats really worked for me in this one, that I was just like, oh shit. And I mean, I say this all the time, right? Maybe it's just girl dad mind going on, but I thought it all worked out pretty good. I really liked Selena and Jim's like relationship. I thought that was done really well, because it could have been like a lot more cheesier and stuff.
Yeah, it was a good enough will they won't they to like keep you engaged on like as a romantic subplot for sure. I did like Brandon Gleeson's death as well, just because I think, once again, he is really good, right? Like, so he is able to sell this, even though there's a lot of aspects with this movie that I dislike. He was able to sell it where I felt like it was a good emotional moment. So I enjoyed that. I don't know if I like how he was infected, like kicking a chain-linked fence with a body on top and a crow picking at it and a drop falling down and hitting him in the eye. Like, it was just a little convenient, that specific aspect, I guess.
I do like that, because Frank was one of my favorite characters. Brendan Gleeson, anytime he plays a character, it kind of looks gruff on the outside, but on the inside, he's like always the big softie.
Always.
Right?
Yeah.
And so here, I feel like it's his empathy that really kills him, because he's like trying to, get the crow to go away so it's not picking at the body. He has like empathy for this corpse. And in the end...
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, there was a corpse on the top. And...
Well, yeah, I know that, but I thought he was just like frustrated.
That's what I took it as. Like, the crow was picking at it, and then when he did that, the crow like went away.
I thought it was like they made it to this blockade and it wasn't like armed with people and it wasn't like a safe haven.
Says,
so he's like, oh, fuck
he was
this.
Angry.
This was a waste of time.
He's like,
he's
like, get at the crow.
Okay.
Oh.
Like, he says, get out of it.
I literally, every time I've ever watched it, I've thought the same thing as Colton.
Yeah, where he's just like, the frustrated character who kicks the wall.
Kicking a hissy fit. Yeah.
Go back and look. I swear it's there.
I mean, I like it on the fact, too, that it just shows, like, how dangerous the world is. That, like, something like that can happen where, like, he's not even facing an infected person, and then, like, he's infected that easily, and it, turns around that quickly.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and lakes that you're used to.
Terrible. What, this whole movie really had me thinking, though, about, how do you guys think you'd make out in, like, a zombie apocalypse? Like, are you surviving?
Fuck no. I'm killing myself.
No, the shit I'd have to eat, I have so many food aversions, I'd be dead. I think I would be good in terms of, like, hiding away and being like, a coward little rat, but, like, I would not be able to, like, actually survive. I'd be like, oh, I have to hunt animals to eat? Like, goodbye, I'm just gonna go throw myself in a river now.
Same. Come get me when you do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to say that I'd make it a little bit, but I have no idea. Like, I have hunted and, eaten off the land if I've had to, fishing and stuff. I think for me, it would be more so kind of like these little social groups, like where I'd probably have to band together with my neighbors that I've been living next to, where it's like, oh, these guys suck, or, you know, I don't even know these people, or this is socially awkward, or, oh, this person's super irritating. I think I'd have an issue with that. If it's just me and kind of a group of a few of my friends, maybe a little bit more likely, or maybe people I work with, like if it broke out like when I was in the middle of filming or something. But yeah, just like me by myself, like having to group up with, you know, people that are renting around me, it doesn't fill me with optimism that I'd make it very far, I don't think. Although with Snowmageddon, you know, when I had to dig out and all like meander up the streets and go get food and all that stuff, and the power was out and all that stuff. I mean, we survived. You know, it was fine. It wasn't a 28-day zombie apocalypse, but I mean, there was definitely aspects that were pretty trying for a few days there.
Yeah, I think I'd be fine, especially if they're running. Fuck that, man. I haven't ran in a long time.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing for me, where it's like, you know, my cardio is not on point right now. It's been a couple of years. I don't think I'd be able to outrun these guys. That's for fucking sure. So, yeah. You know, if they're the Romero kind of shambling ones,
you're all right.
You know, you might be able to just hold up in my house a little bit for a period of time before I kind of meet up with friends or coworkers. But if they're the fast ones, yeah, I mean, I think most people would be absolutely screwed by like these fast moving ones.
It really reminds me of, you know, a great, I've talked about it before, but if you're into like these kind of zombies, I highly suggest reading David Moody's book Hater, which you know did get optioned for a movie. They never made anything you know of it, but very similar to this, like you know, fast moving zombies and the cool twists in it, but like very influenced by 28 Days Later. David Moody's an English writer, and I know he's like very big on this movie, so I think that's where he got the inspiration. But always reminds me of that book. What did he think about like the super kind of like happy ending of, you know, like the plane going by, they do the hello? I thought it was kind of a lame ending, to be 100% honest.
Well, it was like the fourth one they did or something, apparently.
Yeah, that was one of the things I remember from my roommate having the DVD, was that we actually did watch all of the like 8 different endings they shot, and I was like, man, the one they actually put in the movie is the worst out of all of them.
Yeah, I watched them today, and I put the commentary with Alex Garland and Danny Boyle on, and it's kind of funny because I think they kind of agree. They're like, this is the ending that we pretty much absolutely didn't want to use. Yeah, but the other ones tested so positive because obviously
so poorly. Yeah,
and they were such downers, right? Like obviously Jim dying, I think, in pretty much all the other ones. Mm-hmm. But to me, I think that works better.
I don't remember 28 Weeks. I've only seen that one once, I believe. Like, Cillian Murphy does come back for that one, right?
I don't think.
Okay, well then...
I thought he was in it, like, just briefly. I don't remember it at all. I remember Robert Carlyle from Trainspotting being in it, and that's it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to Google it, because, like, if they don't bring the character back, it is way better just to kill him off in this movie. Because when I was watching it, I was just like, okay, he got gut shot. In a, you know, zombie apocalypse. You're not making it out of that. Yeah. And also the whole, like, where it says 28 days later, like a further 28 days.
Yeah.
That felt really goofy to me as well, especially with, like, the way some of it was edited, where it seemed like she was bringing him to a hospital, but then also they're out in, like, the rural English countryside. So there was just aspects of it that it just very much felt like a hatchet job, which I guess... is like
what happened.
What exactly it was, you know? So yeah, I think just committing to him dying is better. Like, obviously that's always going to test poorly with the audience, because there's not too many people that like just kind of downer, more dour endings, right? So it's a little bit, I didn't hate it, especially since it was filmed on an actual camera and not like a Razor, you know, Motorola Razor. But it was not great, I wouldn't say.
I actually liked the ending just because I found the whole movie to be very heavy.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like kind of sad, tragic things going on. Like Jim, when he goes to his parents' house, is one of the scenes that I remember as being really sad, like seeing his parents, after they commit suicide with the picture and the note for him. And then like what happens to the girls when they get to, like the army guys is really dark.
Nothing goes right.
Yeah, everything is just very, very like dark. And so it's kind of nice to have at the end them in the English countryside. And I thought it was cute that they were making the hello sign out of sheets and stuff, and it was kind of a happier ending because it does cancel it out. And I think one of the reasons why I haven't rewatched it very much over the years is because it is pretty heavy. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Jill's tearing up now just thinking about it. So
oh my god, can we talk about Jones though? The soldier wearing the pink apron who can't cook.
The eggs.
No, he can cook. He just cooked eggs that were rotten. And then thought the salt would cover up
oh
the
my
taste.
god. See, this is what is actually so miserable to me about this movie is that it's the end of the world and it's all like soldiers who are men and they can't cook and they're just like misogynistic and they have disgusting food. It sounds awful.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like when it comes down to these dudes being the like last ones left, like it's over.
Yeah.
Like just cut it off. Like just dead ass. Cut the cameras, like we're done.
The only thing I didn't really like with the portrayal of the soldiers is like, I get it's like a trope in all these that like at least one of them's got to be like super dumb, just kind of like a typical like what stereotype of like a grunt or whatever. But it's like all of these guys, like other than like two of them, all the rest just seemed like imbeciles. Like they all were like uncoordinated, didn't know what was going on. And I just kind of thought, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like there probably wouldn't be that. Like these guys would probably be a little more competent than what they were.
Well,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
For it, yeah. We might be saying the same thing. I'm wondering if these guys actually are highly trained, like military people. Because I mentioned that in passing earlier in the episode, and I said highly trained. I was like, I don't know if they actually are though, because none of them can really shoot effectively. Like they don't.
My interpretation was that it was Christopher Eccleston's character and maybe one or two of the other ones. And my note that I wrote was Stanford prison experiment every fucking time. It's you get these people who are nobodies and have no skill and nothing, and you put them in a like relative position of power, and all of a sudden they're like monsters.
Yeah,
and that's what I saw happening here, and I thought it was kind of like a nod to that. Like they were probably just fucking guys who, worked at the grocery store or whatever before this happened, and now they're like, oh, they gave us a gun and we're wearing fatigues, so we're soldiers. But like, no, that the drag of a soldier does not make you one, right?
Yeah, I was wondering about that as I was watching it as well, just because I was like, okay, I think like kind of the couple guys in command were likely from the military, but it was just like everyone else, like Rowan said, they were so like bumbling idiots, stupid. They all get overwhelmed by one zombie at the end of the movie, where it's kind of like ridiculous as well, like with how safe they've been and how they are all walking around with like AR-15s all the time, like ready to go. So it was just like, as I was watching it, I was like, I wonder if this was an intention on Danny Boyle's part where it was supposed to have a couple of like well-trained people or a couple people in power that kind of just get surprised and overwhelmed, or if it was literally like, this is the military and the military is comprised of people like this. I wonder what the intention is behind it. Because it was kind of like a headcanon similar to what Mike was saying. I kind of like was like, maybe this is the explanation, but there isn't like literal text in the movie, I don't think, to say that. Well, I mean, let's talk about the third act a little bit. Like I like obviously when you get to that mansion, like you understand, like I was like, okay, they're set up, they're sufficient, they have hot water, they're cooking, they're trying to maintain some civility of like what the life before was. But obviously, like, I had a couple of memories of this movie, and I was like, I'm pretty sure there's like a zombie chained up somewhere in here.
Yeah.
So when I was watching it, I kind of liked that reveal, especially like, you know, where it's shown like, you know, the sheets, and it's kind of from behind the zombie, and he's rushing towards them, and then on the chain. It's something nowadays where it's like we've seen very similar things in like the Walking Dead television show. But when I was watching this, I was like, oh, I kind of like this, like how abhorrent it is to like a certain degree of like leaving this person chained up. But also like where they're kind of rationalizing it, like, oh, well, it's studying. How long does it take, you know, for them to starve? And like, these were some ideas. Like, I was like, okay, at least the movie is going there and asking questions like, okay, can these zombies starve? Or like, does the virus mutate further? Like, you know, it was a little interesting wrinkle that made that sequence a little bit more interesting. And then the other note I have is that, like, why is Cillian Murphy just running around shirtless for the whole third act of this movie? Like, with rain pouring down. Like, I understand. There's the beat of where you have to, like, basically be like, oh my God, he's so filled with rage at killing this guy that, like, he's, you know, no better than the zombies. He looks like one. But it was just a funny moment where we cut to kind of like him being executed, and he rushes off, and he plays dead, right? And then the next shot we see is him shirtless on the other side of a wall, like kind of hands bound, like going along. And I was just like, where'd his shirt go? And then, you know, they show it like wrapped up in the barbed wire.
The shirt. Yeah.
But I was just like, did they just have like Cillian Murphy? Like, he must have been filming for like 10 days, just shirtless, running around all the time. Like, poor guy.
In fucking cold ass old England.
Yeah, but it was just. It's something that is like kind of like unintentionally funny when I'm watching the movie, because it's just like, bro, just like throw a shirt on or something at some point. Like, why you just run around with this, especially when it's like the blood getting into any orifice can, you know, can infect you.
You think you might cover up a little bit.
Yeah, it was just something that was just funny to me when I was watching the third act of this. Even
it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando.
Like, yeah, just, like it reminded me of like something like Predator or something, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he lathered himself.
Yeah, mud all over himself. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it was just a kind of a goofy beat. Even though I did like the whole part where is it Selena? Their name is where Selena kind of, you know, is about to kill him, and he's like, you know, oh, you hesitated, or that was longer than a heartbeat, and you know they have their kiss and all that. That was, you know, a touching little moment there. It was good. Well orchestrated.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way, that it was silly with him with the shirt off, but I thought most of that worked. Like, I liked the chaos of, you know, the zombie just running and killing everybody, and then them, you know, their friends turning into zombies, and then it just compiles, and just a great beat. And I mean, like I said, this whole third act is probably my favorite part of the movie, because I like that delve into, you know, there's always that one guy that's trying to build up society in the way he wants, you know, in these apocalyptic events. And, you know, I thought, like, I loved when she gives the girl, like, all the pills, and then she's just kind of out of it, like, taunting the soldiers, and that, like, build up.
And then they put her behind the wheel of a car, which is interesting.
Yeah, which is what you do most of the time.
And he says to her, "Are you stoned?" And then Naomi Harris goes, "It's a long story." And I wrote that. I was like, no, it's not. She is stoned. It's a very short story. She took a pill. She's stoned.
It's also literally. Like this stoned girl behind the wheel of a car has the foresight to reverse with the major in the back, and you know, into like a zombie coming out that's going to grab him. It's just like, all right, it was a little convenient, but you know, who cares? The movie's almost over.
Yeah, Megan Burns. I shout out to her IMDb picture. She's like emo chick, like she's a lead singer of Evanescence or something.
Love it.
Ooh, we love Evanescence.
I read her bio. Apparently she is like a emo singer. She like put songs out in like 2006 or something.
My God, she didn't even have Spotify back then. Good for her.
Just
honestly,
for the love of the game.
Yeah. Just loving it.
She was on her, like, what was the original SoundCloud? I'm trying to remember. Like, check out my SoundCloud.
MySpace.
Oh, yeah, it was MySpace. You're right. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Yeah, you're right.
But also,
Friendster,
cool.
maybe.
That character knew how to change a fucking tire as a child.
And she did it, like, in record time. Like,
while zombies were on the way.
She had it like 3 swift movements. Like, there was no wasted
no way in hell.
No wasted movements in that tire changing at all.
How do you know this?
I kind of took it that they must have gone out before. I mean...
Well, it was Brandon Gleeson who was just teaching her all this stuff, like, to survive on her own, right? There was other aspects, like her just being able to drive at all and being able to cook and all that stuff, right? That was just an element of her character. But as somebody who changed probably about half a dozen of my own tires when I was 16, because I didn't realize there was a difference between like an actual tire and a passenger tire. We just kept putting like passenger tires on like my truck or on the van when I'd be driving in gravel roads. I got pretty quick at changing a tire. I'm going to say she's on another level. She's like ready for like, NASCAR. She's flying through it.
The only other note I had was me and Exili were laughing when Exili was watching with me, but when he goes up and Frank takes Jim up to like where he's collecting water. And we were noting that he was using like laundry baskets with holes in them.
With holes. I know. I was like, this man wants that like 3 centimeters of water that will collect at the bottom.
You gotta save those fucking fish, man. Those fish in that bowl were like barely covered with water.
Yeah,
I was just like,
I did like them thinking that through though. Like that was a neat piece of world building. That the laundry baskets on the roof. Even though, not exactly the brightest idea.
And I will say this, because as you know, I was playing a lot of 7 Days to Die, the zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
Building game. Mm-hmm. My Twitch streams of me just
you smacking
it was just you smacking something for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's just like, what on earth am I watching?
Yeah. But I did love like when they were like saying, you can collect dew from like
a plastic sheet,
a plastic tarp, and I was like, oh, that's what I do in 7 Days to Die. They're so right. That's totally where they got that from.
Mike's ready for the infected apocalypse.
Oh, I'm telling you, like I said, it's only the fact that I'd have to eat all that nasty meat that would kill me.
I tell you what, if I need somebody to just smack a car with a wrench for 5 minutes, I'll track Mike down.
Yeah. I won't change your tire. I can't change your tire, but I'll smack the car with a wrench for 5 minutes, and
excellent.
You'll get some good resources from it.
Just 2 things that I noticed that also happened in The Walking Dead, and when I was watching this, all I could think of was The Walking Dead. So I wonder if they like stole this.
Me too.
But one of them was obviously waking up from a coma during a zombie apocalypse. But the other one was the conversation, I think it was between Jim and one of the soldiers, where he asks the question, like, who have you killed? You wouldn't be here if you haven't killed anyone. And same thing on Walking Dead. They always like ask you 3 questions when you're about to join the group, like, how many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed, and why? And I thought that was just really interesting.
Yeah, when I was watching this as well, it was just like, oh, like this is... I feel like the Walking Dead pilot did a lot of this beginning of the movie better. And then there was a lot of shades of like, going through the city is very early Walking Dead, or, arriving to kind of like a mansion or a blockade or kind of like a stronghold that happens in like season 3 and 4 of The Walking Dead. There was a lot of it where I was like, okay, I kind of have to try and divorce it from that, but I did actually like a lot of the early Walking Dead. So when I was watching this, I was just like,
the first couple seasons were excellent.
I was like, The Walking Dead ripped this off, and obviously the comic probably was inspired by aspects of this, and they adapted it from the comic. But when I was watching it, I was just like, so much shades of Walking Dead, to which a lot of them I thought, I just preferred The Walking Dead, weirdly enough. So
I know Robert Kirkman has said that he was like highly influenced when he wrote The Walking Dead by 28 Days Later. That was his kind of catalyst. So let's land the plane on this and get to rating it. If you're new to our podcast, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Mike, what would you give 28 Days Later?
Okay, so I have to preface this by saying, in the windmills of my mind, in my brain, in the deep recesses of my brain, I was like, oh, excellent, like, slay, but when I was rewatching it, and maybe it's just because of all the things I've watched recently, I was like, I'm gonna bump this down to a yay, and then by the end of the movie, I was like, I'm actually gonna bump it down to an okay. It was a rough watch, because in my head, I keep thinking like, oh, it like pioneered the like fast editing and the fast zombies and the kind of like digital video look, but I forgot how like awfully it was done. And I'm not gonna lie, I did get like a little bit like seasick
Yeah.
sometimes watching this movie. So, you know, I don't know if it was a choice that they made on purpose or not, like stylistically, or if it was like budgetary constraints or things like that. But it just really didn't work for me. Maybe it didn't hit the same as it did in 2002 when I was watching it on a giant screen and I hadn't seen anything like it before. And I understand that it did kind of like push the envelope a little bit and like pioneer that whole thing. But it's funny because I was thinking about this last night and this morning that Colton specifically brought up Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake, which is far superior in every way. And it took all those and refined them and actually gave it an aesthetic. And it took what was an unoriginal story, because it is literally a remake, and still somehow managed to twist it. And I think that everything about that, like the songs that they used, were way more iconic. I mean, obviously you think of, you know, like the Johnny Cash song and stuff. And like, I just couldn't help but, while I was watching it, compare it to the old movies that inspired it and then the movies that came slightly after it in an unfavorable manner. Maybe that's unfair. I don't know. I'm still like, I'm not against watching this again. I'm not going to like voluntarily do it again anytime soon. There are things that I love about it. The actors are great. You know, they're like balls to the wall with the nudity and stuff. It just feels like it's fine. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's a fine movie. I just feel like Ro said and Colton said about like 4Ks and stuff, like I wouldn't be buying it. The no. 480p rip that I streamed off of Pirate Bay is fine enough for me. Ro, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, so everything kind of worked for me, even on this watch. I really enjoyed it. I thought the beats worked well. Yeah, it was bad quality, but I kind of thought it added to the atmosphere and at least my watch of it. I'm gonna come in with a yay. I think it's well deserving of that. You know, there's a lot of movies that came after this that owe this great appreciation. I think the writing is really well done. Like, I think the characters are developed really well in it. I like the relationships between everyone, especially between like Frank. Once Frank and his daughter like join the group, I really like that aspect. And then, like I said, I really like once we get to the mansion and you know, all hell breaks loose. I thought it was kind of interesting that I was going through, and I think this is our first pure zombie movie. We've done like The Beyond, which is like zombies from hell, but we've never done like an infection typical zombie movie. And I just thought it was interesting. We've gone 6 years, and this is the first zombie movie we've done, which is wild, because if you had to ask like Teenage Roan, like zombie movies were my favorite genre of movie. But I think it also goes to show you that, you know, this came out, then we get The Walking Dead, then we get like all this zombie stuff, and like how burnt out I think people just got on zombies after this kind of projected that. And we had such a break from it. I think people are kind of ready for like the 28 years later, and hopefully that goes well. But yeah, for this film, I really had a good time with it, and I'll give it a yay. Jill, what about you?
Yeah, I have similar thoughts to the both of you. I think I remember it in my mind being better than it being when I watched it. Like, I would have also said, yeah, it's a fucking slay. Like, I watched this all the time growing up and rented it, and I am a big fan of zombie movies, and this was one of them. And yeah, it did look kind of shitty, but I still love it. It's anchored in reality, very much so. It doesn't let you forget that with the story. I think it's kind of emotional at times. I love the characters. I like the soundtrack. I think the gore was good. I think the red eye is also iconic on the zombies. And I like that style. But one thing I didn't really talk about that I really like about this movie is that it's British, and it has this dry British humor to it that is really dumb, but it cracks me up, and I just love seeing a British zombie movie. There's something in there that American zombie movies just don't access. But yeah, I think it has a very strong atmosphere. It's something that, you know, is going to be in my vault of like favorite movies, but one I probably won't rewatch just because it is so heavy. So yeah, it's a yay for me. Colton, what are you rating 28 Days Later?
Yeah, as you guys said, in my head, this was like an excellent movie. And when I turned it on today, I was upset. I don't know how else to describe it, but like watching this movie in 2002, it was probably undoubtedly a sleigh. Watching this in 2025, where literally every single aesthetic decision I despise, essentially, it was hard to get through. It is literally like, I won't go so far to give it an A just because like I think I would be like, you know, murdered. But it was like, I didn't really enjoy a whole lot of this. A lot of it, I can't divorce my like knowledge of other zombie media, of like The Walking Dead, or, you know, the Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, which was only a couple years after this. There was just a lot of other zombie media since this that I just prefer. So when I was watching this, I was just like, okay, obviously all this other media owes a lot to this movie. It's just watching this movie in 2025 and taking this movie purely for what it is. I just very much didn't enjoy the aesthetic, the sound, the direction, a lot of, you know, the color grading, the way it was shot. I despised a lot of that. I do think it's just like the acting essentially is still really strong. And, you know, there are action set pieces that are fun in the movie, or at least have me on the edge of my seat, even if I disagree and I think they're edited like a Taken movie. And if this was Taken, we'd all be saying it's the worst editing ever. But for whatever reason, since it's 28 days later, we're saying like, oh, it was, you know, harrowing. It was, oh, it was such a great job. So this is an okay for me. And what I will say is it's like a week okay. It's not even like very strong. I can't believe that I love like Trainspotting, or I even like Trainspotting 2, or like Slumdog Millionaire, or Sunshine, or all these other movies by Danny Boyle I like think are good movies. And I was like, oh, 28 Days Later, obviously just a great movie. And then when I watched it today, I just didn't feel that way whatsoever. So yeah, I'm gonna give it an okay from me.
So 2 okays, 2 yays. Yeah, I'm sure people will come for us either way.
People are going to be upset, I think.
Yeah, I feel like this is highly regarded. Well, we'll find out.
What I'll say,
slide into the DMs.
For what I'll say is, like, if you are an audience member that doesn't watch the movies like along when we review them, which is obviously the vast majority of people, I will say watch 28 Days Later in the year 2025 and get back to me, because I agree. Like, in my head, my rose-colored glasses, this was excellent. I just don't feel that way now.
So we told you what we thought about the film, and we asked you what you thought, and we had people write in about this one. So Charlene wrote us on Facebook, and they just said slay. That's all they said. I expected that. To come.
Mike's gonna hear about it.
Yeah.
I'll be getting texts about that next week. Let me tell you.
Horrorhound Holly P wrote in and said, I dream of London that is as quiet as that opening scene. It's a slave for me, rapey part aside.
Yeah, we barely even discussed that. But yeah, when you have a bunch of men in power and a couple of women wander in, it always goes this way.
And then also on our IG, we had Ryan write in, and he said, it's a yay. Whenever I watch this, I can't stop thinking about how much noise the uninfected make. With an abundance of zombie films nowadays, maybe it's an easier detail to be aware of. But damn, don't be mad you get attacked when you're being too damn loud.
I agree with that too.
I mean,
yeah.
We have to hide from the zombies. Quick, make as much noise as you fucking can. I did think about this at the beginning when they like explode the gas station and they're like,
I know.
Very British.
Like, please.
Yeah.
Guy Fawkes.
Executing people by, gunshot outside in like a zombie apocalypse where it's like ammo would probably be, something you'd be watching. The sound of drawing the zombies would be another thing. Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of points in this movie where they forget about that aspect of what they set up.
And then lastly, we had Uncle B from the 80s on Slasher write in, and they said, it's a gem, but 28 weeks later reeked to high heavens, failing massively short of the first installment. But I'm really looking forward to 28 years later. So I would take it that's like a yay or a slay. He said it was a gem. I mean, as we
honestly, I'm really looking forward to the new one too. I will definitely be going to see it.
Oh, me as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously it'll be something we'll likely cover on the show, but
yeah, it looks super fantastic. And with that, why don't we stroll on over to the horrific hotline, where we have not one, but we have two voicemails this evening.
A celebratory episode, indeed.
Yes. So we'll start with Nicholas, who always writes us and sends us his thoughts on the film. So we'll start with Nicholas to get started.
Okay, so I do really enjoy 28 Days Later, and there are many, many positive aspects for me. There are a few negative ones as well. Especially the final part. There are a few things I just think the soldiers at the compound, it all feels a bit too standard, especially compared with the first half of the movie, or even first hour, 10 minutes, hour 20 minutes, up until the death of Brendan Gleeson's character. Because that is a really great movie. I like the idea of the zombies or infected, whatever, them running, them being these rage victims. That is at points actually really scary, especially towards the beginning. I like the start with Cillian Murphy, I hope I pronounce him correctly, Cillian Murphy's character waking up in the hospital, and I think a few years before the Walking Dead comic even was out, and wandering around London, the empty London streets, some great visuals there. The four main characters are really well portrayed. I like the mix of fast-paced action, a little bit of gore, and also some more reflective scenes, and of course the banger soundtrack. There's this one track that plays, for example, during the final. Incredible. Really gets your heart pumping. Now, I mentioned the soldiers and the final. It's still okay, it's good, it's enjoyable, but it's not up there with the beginning. And I have to admit, the movie looks like crap.
There we go.
Of having
buried the lead.
Digital cameras, at least for me, it just doesn't work. I think it's super ugly, and I would have loved to see the movie on with a normal quality. It just looks like shit. I'm sorry, but still, I'm coming up at a very strong yay, with especially the visuals holding me back from the sleigh. But I am really looking forward to the second sequel, 28 years later. Hope it will reach the heights of either this one or at least the entertainment value I give 28 weeks later, which you might actually cover at some point. And since I am already running up to 3 minutes, I just want to congratulate you on another year. Please keep on doing all this. It's just great. And I have another final question, which you can cut for time if you don't, or if you're still.
We're here, Nicholas.
But I have the feeling that all of you are gamers, at least to some extent. And I was wondering if, next to movies, you'd ever be open to cover a video game, a horror game that all of you have played. Like, I know Colton played the Silent Hill remake. I know that some of you are Until Dawn fans, or at least played the game. Is that ever something you might consider, or rather not? Well, anyways, all the best for you and for the next years, and I hope to get a lot more episodes in the future. So yeah, keep on slaying.
Behind the scenes, I don't know, years ago, I thought, like, if we ever wanted to do like streaming video game streaming or discuss it. It's like, obviously you can always do an It Plays pretty easily and just discuss video game stuff. For me personally, it's something that I just kind of feel like, even though I've been following video games longer than I've been following movies, it's something that I don't know if I want to make kind of like a hobby, or kind of like take my last hobby that I haven't, discussed too much online. I don't know if I want to go that far. Maybe for like a one-off episode at some point, or...
Yeah, I was going to say, I would totally do like a special episode or something
stream.
For sure. A live stream? I mean, hello?
I think
I tried to stream...
before Colton... We talked about for a long time setting up some sort of It Slays Twitch and Mike playing like some games, or...
I mean, I used to play Dead by Daylight all the time.
I mean, maybe something in the future would be fun to do, like, just like you said, a one-off thing, or even a special episode where we just talk about horror games or something.
Yeah, or like we'll set up a Twitch and like we can just have special weeks or something if something comes out, like, oh, we'll just stream our playthrough of, Silent Hill 2 remake or whatever.
Or The Forest.
Yeah, I think like doing something. Sorry, what'd you say, Jill?
I said The Forest.
At the same time. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just forever. Just stuck playing horror games. I was thinking like something that's like a shorter experience, like, I don't know, if the Dark Pictures anthology was better, for example, right?
Yeah.
Like, by the Until Dawn devs, where you can stream for 2 or 3 hours with a couple of us making choices. That sort of thing could be fun.
Yeah.
Or like, once again, if we've all played like a similar game or happened to play one at the same time, maybe we can discuss it. But like doing like a dedicated podcast or dedicated show, I'd be pretty averse to it, just because once again, it's just it'll wind up making it feel like an obligation for me personally,
instead of your being like your weight unwind.
Yeah, which for me personally, it's like, obviously I'm a huge movie fan, but there are times when we got a movie on this podcast where it's like it is an obligation for me to watch it, and it's not always a Mike
Colton's
pick,
too busy trying to platinum every game he plays,
and that's true too. Like I play games at like a weird pace as well, where it's like during the off season I'll play, like if something comes out that's big, it's like instantly I'll play it, and I almost like marathon it for like a week or two to make sure it's like 100% done, and then I move on. Where there's lots of people that'll take months to play an Elden Ring or something like that, right? So
I've been playing it for a year and a half, and I'm only about 60% through it.
Yeah, which I 100% did that in like 11 days or something, right? Like,
yeah, so I was like, oh look, hang on now. I log on and go, oh, there's another platinum trophy from Colton. Okay,
yeah. But then it's with the way I work, the other 7 months of the year, I basically play nothing. So, like, if it was the sort of thing where we had, like, a dedicated show, it'd just be completely unfeasible for me for over half the year. But, yeah, maybe something to think about if there was, like, a big game we were all excited about and it wasn't, like, an obligation, and we all happened to be like, oh, we're going to check this out anyways, possibly. I don't know.
I will say in the email, he sent a threat. It seems like a threat to Jill, where he had said he hoped we enjoyed reviewing this pick, but... next year, he promises, he says, it'll be Phantasm 2, trust me.
God damn it.
Yeah, we didn't mention it this year.
You will be dealt with.
Because just I've been like worse at tracking things this year, and like didn't do as much artwork, and to kind of build up the anniversary poll. But Nicholas did choose 28 Days Later. It was one of his 2 picks, and it happened to win. So, I don't know what that says for Phantasm 2 next year, but, we'll see.
So, with that, we have another voicemail from longtime horror hound, Holly P. This is her first time calling in. And I have made sure I have not listened to this. Like, sometimes I hear blurbs of it when I'm getting them ready. I haven't listened to this at all.
I'm looking forward to this, too, just because she was probably our first patron after I joined, where there was just a long, stretch of probably a year where we didn't shout out the Patreon. We didn't do anything at all with it. And then just she joined one day out of the blue and got like, absolutely nothing for it. It was just there for, half a year supporting us. So I'll always appreciate
we love it and appreciate you, Holly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, it's Slays Horror Hound Holly here. Rowan, Mike, Colton and Jill, happy 6th year anniversary. What an achievement. A podcast as well as doing actual life. I don't know how you do it, but I want to say a huge thank you for all the laughs and interesting content for all of these years. I was introduced to you from AIM on every horror movie on Netflix
Oh.
and have been entertained ever since. So here are a few of my highlights. Mike exclaiming divorce every time opinions differed always made me laugh out loud. X and Mike getting into the weeds on the architecture, aesthetics and interior design of certain movie homes. I can absolutely relate to this. Mike watching Jaws on the bus on his phone really made me chuckle because it's been mentioned a few times on the episodes, and that movie
This episode as well
is really long, so hopefully that bus ride wasn't as long as that movie is. X doing the Bechdel test. This introduced me to the Bechdel test, and I really enjoyed the thoughts on that and the ratings on the episodes of the Bechdel test. Jill, the newest member of the crew, fascinating me with the plots and characters of the books you read. Some of them will forever be imprinted on my mind, like the anatomy of certain mythical creatures.
Minotaur milking.
Yes. You can't get that out of your head. Maybe I need to be reading some of these books myself. Who knows? Maybe I'll get into it.
Holly, don't do it.
I'll message you. Colton elevating the horror, of course, and your insights into the industry, I think, are just fascinating. And, of course, to conclude on that, our shared love of dinosaurs, which is the important thing. Rowan's movie budget game and your enviable movie collection, quite a lot of which I don't think you've seen, so you should probably get onto that because you don't have enough to do already. And your education of the younger colleague at work when you're watching movies together, and I was just so interested in the movies that we take for granted as classics and things we've seen, and they're a staple to us, but in the younger generation they haven't heard of. I just really thought that was very interesting. Lastly, it would be remiss of me not to mention your foreign correspondent, Nicholas, and his segments. I look forward to every episode. I think after you've spoken collectively on everything, it's really good to get his review as well. And I think that he also really thinks about it and gives it so much attention and thought. So thanks for tirelessly committing to this for us, everyone. You all work together to bring your individual insights, knowledge and humour to each episode and to every movie. And that includes the Leprechaun ones, which I still haven't seen. So you are all a slave from me. You absolutely rock. Thank you so much.
Holly slays.
Oh my God, what a voice
That was
fail.
so nice. I want to cry. I love it.
Yeah, that was so nice. Far nicer than we deserve. Yeah, well, okay, someday I'll convince, for some episode, we'll convince X to come on so her and Mike can have an architectural conversation again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know, I miss it.
There's a couple of pieces of that is like literally just me killing it when I joined the podcast, which I feel bad of like Holly like enjoying that aspect, like the budget game. I remember when I joined, I was like, we should just kill this because, you know, through the research, I'll learn what the budget is of the movie, and then I can't really just play along to the game or. Having a show with 3 dudes for a period talk about the Bechdel test was like. You know, something else.
Let's bring that back.
That we can, I mean,
behind the scenes, I feel like it was X that killed the Bechdel test because basically what ended up happening is she was like, they never passed. So
yeah, it is very rare. Maybe we could point it out if it actually passes.
Yeah, maybe something we'll bring back where we're like, whoa, this actually passes.
Yeah, remember the Bechdel test?
Yeah, maybe we'll bring that back for some special conversation. But yeah, it was great to hear from you, Holly. Hopefully, you know, this encourages you to call in whenever you want. I know, you know, first time calls can be a little scary, but we appreciate it. And like Colton said, I mean, you've been a horror hound. You and Nicholas are really like the
OGs,
two OGs, and I think like James is pretty much right behind you there. So, you know, we always appreciate that. Thank you so much for all the kind words.
Yeah, Holly, that they like really touched me and all of us.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, that was an excellent
I
voicemail.
really appreciate that message. It was really nice, because sometimes you just like are spitting shit out into a microphone and you kind of like don't think anybody's listening or hearing it or giving a fuck. So
I like how most
really
of her
means a lot.
highlights were just about Mike, like just
true
doing ridiculous things like watching Jaws on a bus. Just sacrilege to film.
It really is. Oh my god. But listen, that's like my life. My life is just sacrilege to film.
Also, if she's still an Amon fan, like I'm very much looking forward to seeing like what they're gonna do next. I think by this time when it's revealed, or by the time this is released, we'll know whatever their podcast looks like, because they just went through a huge shakeup behind the scenes. So as a listener myself, I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Yeah. Also, you should go listen to the Thanksgiving episode, because I was on it.
Absolutely. And if you want to be like Holly and Nicholas and leave us a voicemail, you can do so by sending it to us at itslacedpodcast or itslacedpodcast@gmail.com. Basically, you can just message us on any of our socials, a voice clip, and we'll make sure that it makes the air. And if you're not doing so already, you can follow us everywhere at It's Laced Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Bluesky, TikTok. I don't know what we're putting on there, but if there's a social media, we're probably there at It's Laced Podcast. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds, Holly and Nicholas, both of which you've heard from this episode, or Patrick, Mark, Steven, Joy, Dan, Brian, Trevor, and James, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early when Rowan does so. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslacedpodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Now, Rowan, I hated the music in this movie. I don't know if there was anything worthy of making a playlist or not, but
we'll see. I'll have to listen again. I like the music, and Nicholas liked the music, so maybe something for Nicholas. I'll throw something on. I'll see what was playing in that scene that he liked so much. But yeah, you can go to Spotify to the It's Laced Podcast, horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that Colton just mentioned. Go click the Linktree link in the bio, take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from horror movies we review, horror movies we love, horror movies that are iconic, everything. We just upload horror movies, music, and obviously, what else would we do? So go give it a follow. We update it regularly and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? And all that is left is to announce our upcoming episode as we put a cap to this I'm sure very long holiday episode, which is our anniversary. I don't know why I said holiday. But
it is a holiday.
Well, it's our Valentine's Day episode, of course.
Yeah, of course. Not the most important holiday of the year. That we save that for Holly. That's coming soon in March. That's called Leprechaun Day, St. Patrick's Day. That'll be coming.
I saw the gears turning in your head where you're like, damn, what's that holiday called?
Leprechaun Day. You know, that's as good as we're going to get, honestly.
The fever's hitting, guys. The fever's hitting. Jill, it is your pick.
Mm-hmm.
What will you have us watching?
Well, I think this movie has become kind of a running joke for a little while in the podcast, with Mike threatening to choose it as his pick every so often. But next episode is going to be on Frankenhooker, and we might have a special guest.
Perfect. Yes. Frankenhooker.
Applause.
I mean, yeah, in due time, we built this podcast on brain damage. So it's only right to go in the Frankenhooker. So get Frankenhooker into your eye sockets, and we will be back in 2 weeks. As always, thank you so much for the support over the years. Like we said, 6 years, we, keep growing. The downloads keep going up, all that good stuff. So people are obviously listening, liking what we do, and we appreciate every ounce of it. So as always, I am your humble host, Rowan.
Thank you for listening and being there. We love you. It's Mike.
Yeah, thank you all for listening. It's Colton.
Happy anniversary. Bye, it's Jill.
See you later.